Rebecca, it's 6 o'clock. Are you ready to go live?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order. City of Anamosa City Council regular session, Monday, July 13th, 2020, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library Learning Center via Zoom. 1.0 roll call.
Crump.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Zelbach.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Capron.
Here.
2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to 3.0 agenda approval, I'll turn this over to Rebecca, who is quarterbacking from the virtual side. Rebecca, could you please state how individuals can get your attention to address the council once it's called for?
Absolutely. So people joining us through Zoom can do one of two things. You can either send me a message in the chat that you would like to speak on a particular topic. The other way that you could get my attention is by raising your hand in Zoom. For those of you who have not done that before or cannot see it, you may have to click on something that says participants, and that should show you an option for raising your hand. So you can just do that, and I will, for everybody, wait until the mayor has opened the subject up to public comment. And yeah, I think that covers about everything. I don't see anybody joining us via phone, so if somebody does, I will share that with them at that point.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. You were still very faint, at least to me. Hopefully that if anybody wants to discuss with council, that they can turn the volume up, I guess. But thanks for those instructions.
Yep.
Also, means we have full council in attendance. We will only roll vote the items that are identified on the agenda. 3.0 agenda approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the agenda carried unanimously. 4.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. I'll ask that we have a approval for each one of these. 4.1 June 22nd, 2020 regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approved carried unanimously. 4.2 July 7th, 2020 special meeting.
So moved. Second.
Who was the motion? Jeff. Thank you. Motion by Jeff, second by Rich, to approve the minutes submitted on the July 7th special meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimously. 5.0 public hearings, none. 6.0 proclamations, none. 7.0 old business. 7.1 discussion and possible action regarding building sewer violation at 402 North William Street. I know we received some information from the city attorney regarding this. Council discussion.
Well, I do have one question. Were Sealy's notified that we were having this topic?
I did not notify them.
So this is Pat O'Connell, city attorney. I did make contact with them and let them know. And my understanding is they or at least a representative.
Patrick?
We can't hear you.
He said he did inform them.
But just for anybody on that end, we need to.
Is there any way we can turn that up?
According to Rebecca, no.
Will those
The-
speakers reach part way? And I'm just so they don't get feedback onto the microphones, but
Get one on each table, maybe?
we just don't know how long those cords are.
Short.
Even if you set them on chairs maybe or something.
It's like volume on normal. Tablet is louder than the speaker.
Once we turn the table, then we just put it on the corner of that table. It needs to be up high. The white table.
Oh, that's our mic for our voice.
Is
Hey,
there a
Rebecca,
volume
can you
on
say
that
something?
speaker?
Sure, I can talk to see if I get louder or not.
Just do open that main. Whatever you want to call
Close control board.
it. Yeah.
Is it getting better or is it staying the same?
Still the same.
It is-
Can it be turned up on the control board?
What do you mean? Like on the iPad?
No.
Or-
up here. He's playing bands, he has one of those, he can make it really loud.
Whoa, what's that?
Oh, that's Richard's phone.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can just get it and turn off the microphone. And at least listen this way.
Yeah.
I mean, the other option is just to unplug all the speaker and sound stuff and see how it comes out with just the iPad.
And the
Yeah.
speaker on the tablet is usually pretty.
Rebecca, just turn off my microphone, would you?
The city council microphone or?
No, mine I just signed in.
Oh,
On his phone.
let's see. Well, it's not allowing me to, I can only unmute you.
Can you mute it, Rich?
Do you want me to unmute you?
No, I just want you to turn off my speaker so I can, my microphone so I can just listen.
Oh, so it'd be difficult to have one bringing in audio and one sending out audio in the room.
Let's try just unplugging everything and see if we
Yeah,
can
just
hear it from the laptop.
unplug the headphone jack and see if it gets better.
Better earlier. Can you just do the one from the actual tablet?
Is that better?
Say something.
I did.
If you can hear me.
No,
worse.
that's worse. I can hear you over Rich's phone, but not over the system.
Well, are you sure the iPad's volume is all the way up?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little bit better. That was a little bit better than before.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That keyboard up there, is that all the way up? That one is
That's
down.
only for us speaking.
Okay.
Well, let's try this again. Patrick, you were going to advise.
Well, I can hear you perfectly. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. I did, in fact, notify Cody Seeley of the meeting topic for tonight, and he responded that he knew that, or at least he acknowledged my message that that was the case.
All right, thank you. So I guess to answer your question, Rich, yes.
Yeah.
The Seelys were notified via the city attorney.
Okay.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
Oh, good. This is Cody Seeley. I clicked the little raise hand thing, but can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, Pat did text me last night at 8:30. Otherwise, we weren't notified. So I discovered the council meeting agenda Saturday night. So if you
Please
consider
state your name for the record and your address.
Cody Seeley, and I'm talking for my parents, 402 North William Street, Anamosa, and I live in Clinton, Iowa.
Thank you.
So I guess if we consider that notice, okay, we were notified at 8:30 last night. I guess I'll talk a little bit here. I sent out some emails to everybody. Did all the council members get it?
I did.
Yes.
Yes.
Were you provided with the letter from our attorney prior to today?
Yes, we were.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what do we have for questions? Let's talk about this and get it figured out.
Council?
I'd like to just say that we need to figure out what the fairest way to do this would be for everybody.
So council's going to need to speak up. It looks like we may have, we're just going off of an iPad audio right now. We couldn't hear Alan.
Just talk on.
Talk a little louder, how's that?
That's good.
Okay. My thought is we need to try to be fair with everybody concerned. I'm just gonna put out some thoughts. I'm not trying to upset anybody, but I think if anyone that would have moved into that house wasn't told that they were hooked up to a sewer that went through Dan's house, and then find out that they have to hook their sewer up to something else because it's against our rules. This was decided in 1947. Somehow this person should have known this before they moved in. I'd have made the person own that house fix that before I bought it.
Well, this predates your sewer code ordinances, and your code actually allows for this very situation. It's actually fairly common. The house is on an interior lot. When they built the house on the interior lot, they hooked the lines together. Your code specifically references that this is a legal use. And, you know, if we go back to the beginning on this, when Jacob sent out the letter, there was no investigation done. There was no discussion with council. A letter was just sent out demanding it be moved. There was no research. You know, both deeds describe the sewer line and the water line. It's a permanent easement. I don't even understand how this has became the issue it's become, especially if you guys had done your due diligence or your city administrator had done that. So here we are with a kind of a mess here that didn't need to go this far. Have you reviewed your codes? Did you review the section I specifically referenced?
I understand that there's an issue that Dan can't move into it. I understand there's an issue that Dan can't move into his house until this is fixed because of the.
Now that's a complete lie. Who's telling you that?
So we need to figure out a way to solve this where one of the thoughts that is mine is that we need to run a sewer line up that street.
Now, we have to go. I'm sorry.
You can hook up to it.
Why can Dan not move into his house?
What's that?
Why can Dan not move into his house?
because of the way the sewer is hooked up.
How, it's been this way, he's lived there, they've both resided there. Why can't he move in?
You know, really, that's not the point.
Well, no, that's the point you just made, which is not valid. And if that's what Dan's telling you, that's
right
not
now,
true.
trying to figure out whether we can be fair with you folks and fair with Dan. Nobody's going to be happy with anything that we do when we're done, but at least it'll be as fair as we can make it. I'm not going to argue why he can't move in or why this can't be, because there's an ordinance stating that you're supposed to be hooked up separately. So what I'm saying is we need to come up with a way to solve this that would be fair with everybody. Even if it isn't perfect, it'd be better than us just saying you got to hook up to it, whether we put a line up there or not.
So section 9605 of your sewer code, chapter 9605, section 3, separate building sewers, says right here, a house on an interior lot can connect to another lot if public sewer does not abut it. That's what we have here. So why is this illegal?
Some of these questions that you're pushing, it won't make any difference whether we answer them or not.
I'm not asking you to, fine, you don't have to answer them now, but it tells me that you didn't review anything, so that's fine.
What would be the fairest way? I'm just asking everybody here.
Well, I understand this is not ideal. I mean, we can all acknowledge that. Dan intentionally capped the line, and it was a $700 bill to figure out what was going on here, and that's when all this started. And here we are today. Now, both parties, it was all part of the deeds when these properties were purchased. Dan has a job. It's his actual job to keep track of where sewer lines are in town. It's actually part of his job description, which apparently he didn't do. Otherwise, if he did do it, then we know he did it intentionally. And now we're running a sewer line down the street for one house, advocating on behalf of a city employee. Now, none of it smells good, and you guys know it. So the fact that they don't have any legal sewer line, and we've already spent a bunch of money on attorney costs, got $700 plumbing bill, and now we got to spend another $5,000 to hook up to the sewer line. I mean, how does that ring fair to you? What's this going to cost Dan? Nothing. City attorney, everything's paid for by the taxpayers for Dan. And we don't even have any legal issue. You guys haven't even read your code.
Well, Cody, I'm not in agreement with that statement you just made that we have not read the code. That you do not know to be factual or not. It's an assumption on your part.
Well, apparently that's how we're handling this, is based on assumptions, because everything we've done so far has been assumptions. Do you know where the lines piggyback together? Do you know the size of the lines? Do you know anything about the lines, where they connect, anything? How do you know Dan's line piggybacked into my parents?
That they connect on Dan's property.
What's illegal about that?
So, may I chime in, Your Honor? Can you hear me all right?
Please do. If you could talk up, Patrick, it'd be very appreciated.
So I'm going to talk as loud as I can, and hopefully you can at least make out what I'm trying to say. I just want to assure everybody, including Mr. Seeley, that the council's been apprised in great detail of all the facts of the case in writing. Those have been discerned, those have been boiled down. What we're here arguing about is some certain definitions in the code concerning what is an interior lot. And the council's been provided legal advice regarding what that means. And that's really the crux of the dispute here. Okay, so it's not fair really to characterize the situation as one where the council's ignorant of the facts. They know the facts, they've been apprised of the facts, and they've been given legal advice on how those facts would be interpreted in terms of the law. And so I just want to make that clear, that the council's not they're not coming forth blindly toward this problem. They've been thinking about it very carefully for a long time, and they've asked me to provide legal advice and fact-finding on it, and I've made sure that that was done. So we may have a disagreement, but it's not one of fact.
What is the, Pat, what is the issue on how we're defining an interior lot? I've got a diagram I'm looking at right here from the city's zoning ordinance, and it clearly defines what an interior lot is, which is what this property is. What is the, I guess, what's in question here? Help me understand.
Well, what you're arguing, as I understand it, is that because the property sits adjacent to its neighbors, and because there's no sewer pipe on the street immediately adjacent to it, and because the pipe has to cross over the neighbor property, that it's an interior lot. And I don't think that's what the code intended. I think what the code means is if you're isolated like an island in the interior portion of a block, and you can't get out any direction except through another property, you are an interior lot. I don't think that's the situation here. There is a straight shot to a main right now without going through any other lot, and therefore that lot is not an interior lot. Now, we can argue about that in court about whether that means what I think it means, but I don't think we can say that the council's being absurd by interpreting its own code that way, because I've noticed that terminology, interior lot, in this same manner appears in many state codes, and I'm sorry, municipal codes statewide, and I don't think it means what's being alleged.
That may or may not be correct, and I actually just sent you the diagram, Pat. The city code references an interior lot as a lot in the middle of a block that abuts public right of way, not one that would be landlocked, like your reference. So I think it's quite clear, but even so, if we go back to a separate and independent building sewer shall be provided for every occupied dwelling, except for where one building stands at the rear of another on an interior lot, and no private sewer is available. And
so does your parents' house stand at the rear of Mr. Smith's house or adjacent to Mr. Smith's house?
yes, ma'am, they are at the rear.
Well, it's at the rear if you are looking at it from where the connection point is, but it's not to the rear. There's a new sewer line to the northeast. So I think what the city is alleging is that, and this is, I think, a perfectly reasonable interpretation of the code, is that there is a straight shot to a sewer line, and it's 122 feet.
I think we're getting a little off track here. The property does not abut the public right of way. Can we all agree to that?
Say that again.
My parents' property at 402 North Williams does not abut this public utility. Can we all agree to that?
Are you saying the right of way or the utility itself?
We don't abut the utility, correct? No, we abut a right of way. We have a right of way at the front of the house.
Right, and there is a public utility connection point 122 feet to the northeast. It's not on the parcel, it's not on the road immediately in front of your parents' house, but it is 122 feet to the northeast. I think that's the point the city has been raising, and they're fully aware of those facts. It's just a question of law regarding the interpretation of what that means to be an interior lot.
I think your diagram is clear, and I don't even see how there's any room for interpretation on it.
Typically what these provisions mean is they mean that for example, when you have, oftentimes you'll see in an urban setting, you'll have a parcel that is behind a street abutting lot where there is no connection point from that place to any street. There's no straight shot anywhere except straight through the building in front of it. Usually you'll see this in an urban environment where there is, for example, a storefront and then a business located directly behind it. And often you'll see connection points running through there. And that might be an exception where an interior lot would really be relevant here. But I don't think that's the situation in this case.
We can agree to disagree on that because we're talking about Anamosa, Iowa. The code specifically references these items, and I guess it could be interpreted anyway in a court. I'll agree with you there. I think it's quite clear. Obviously, it's not. We have across the street other properties that have sewer lines running through other properties, but yet we don't seem concerned about any of that, but rather just this specific instance. And I also don't understand the rationale behind that as well.
So to the best of my knowledge, there are other sewer non-conformities. Sometimes they'll run across other private lots, or they won't be the correct size. Those things which aren't permitted by our code, but they're not as an immediate concern as the piggybacking issue, this is the case here, where two lines actually tie together, because that puts the potential backup, sewer backup, as a issue toward one property over another. If the line simply crossed Dan's property without tying into his sewer line, I think it would be a very different issue, but that's not what is occurring here.
I don't think
Side of Williams, that's what them are, aren't they, Jacob?
That's my understanding.
They go through other properties.
They go through property, but they don't tie into the physical sewer lines.
Now, I don't know what it's been, 15 years ago when they did Ford Street, they had to change a bunch of them because some of them was running from one house to the other. When they redid Ford, they got them all set up so they would get away from that problem, going through another house.
Who paid for that?
Property owners had to pay to get it hooked to the house. The city brought it to the street, got it there, but then the property owners had to pay to get it hooked to their facility. If I'm correct, you remember, Galen?
So if I read this right, if we run a sewer line down North Williams, per se, they will have to hook up.
Correct.
Well, and so it's my understanding they've agreed to hook up if there's a sewer line run either down North Williams or up the alley. They have agreed to hook up.
It was brought to our attention. We haven't agreed to do anything. I think you're placing an unfair hardship. If we go back in history, my parents have resided there for over 30 years. Dan, I think since 92, somewhere around there. There's never been one issue with the sewer line, period, up until the line was intentionally capped off. And that's when this all started. So claiming this is something that needs addressed immediately because it's an issue is based on history isn't true. The statement that Dan can't move into his house because of this is not true. It's been that way.
Seen the connection in my basement that ties into my plumbing?
Dan, you capped it and you opened it. Do you have water on at your house right now, Dan?
I didn't intentionally cap it, Cody. I replaced the plumbing in my basement and I poured 9.5 yards of concrete. And your parents' connection comes into my basement right next to my stack coming in to where I put my new plumbing in, and I can't because your parents' stuff is lower than mine. It will not work. If I have to take you to court and your parents to court, I will.
And
Simple as that.
Please.
And that is exactly where this should have went. It's a private dispute, really.
It is not.
Instead we
It's
have.
in code. Thank you.
Dan,
Cody,
yes, sir.
we're trying to figure this out and make it as fair and reasonable for everybody involved.
I understand that.
But
I do.
you're turning this into an antagonistic approach. And it doesn't need to go there.
I'm asking for a solution to the problem. And I do not agree that this is an illegal sewer line. Dan was aware of it when he purchased the property. And I don't think the way it's being handled is correct. That's what this boils down to. This is already costing us a lot of money, and it's costing Dan nothing. And you may take taxpayer dollars and run the sewer line down the road and force us to hook up, but, you know, is that fair to my parents? I mean, they've lived here all their, my dad's grew up in Anamosa. My mom, when they moved there, when they got married, they, you know, to some people, $5,000 is a lot of money, guys.
Tony, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to work with us and try to solve this problem?
I want to work with you. And that's why I sent those emails out, because the only person that I've communicated with, and I know Pat very well. I was on the city council in Clinton. Pat's communicated with me well. And I've spoke with Rich, and then I emailed the rest of the council members today. And I, in fact, tried to leave everybody alone because I didn't want this to get blown out of proportion. And yes, we would love to get this resolved. This is very stressful.
And solve the problem.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Legal or illegal is irrelevant right now. The one point that we're talking about is that you're hooked into a sewer line that you're not supposed to be hooked into. Granted, it was a kind of a shot in the head, but now we have to solve this.
Yep.
Rather than sitting here arguing about it, I think we need to decide how we're going to handle this.
I agree.
Okay, let's stop right there. Now let's solve the problem. I've heard a couple suggestions. One of mine was to run a sewer line up that street or down the alleyway. At that point, I understand that your folks were ready to, would be willing to hook up at that time. Am I correct in hearing that?
I am not certain. I will have to discuss that with them.
Well, let me ask you this. What's your solution? If you're willing to work on a solution, what's your suggestion for a solution?
I don't think it's fair that.
No. What's your solution?
I think that when that street gets replaced down the road, you run the sewer line and everybody connects into it because you've got other people running the wrong way as well. If you need to do it immediately, I'm hesitant. I'm not going to agree to anything on their behalf, but we don't feel it's an illegal line. So we don't feel we should have a financial burden due to this. And because Dan discovered this, he was already aware of it though. If he has the deed, it's all there. It wasn't something that was secret, and it's always been that way. So we've never had any problems until now. So why are we getting stuck with spending $5,000 to $7,000 all said and done when there was nothing wrong? And the reason I say this is because I don't agree that your conclusion that it's an illegal line. It was legally put into place. It's always been there, and there's never been any issues. And
Tony, I apologize for interrupting, but you're going right back to arguing again. We want to solve this, and it's going to cost us money.
Yep.
That's obvious. The only thing we need to figure out is how we can do this and be fair with everybody. But
well,
you guys have to spend some money. You know that.
Well, then Dan needs to buck up and pay for part of it too.
So what do you think? Should we run a sewer line up the alleyway?
No, I don't think the alleyway is ideal. That was going to be the most expensive option. Option 1 or 2 seems most ideal to me. Obviously, option 2, that gets the city sewer line the closest to my parents' house.
Of course,
Now, if we're gonna go that-
option 3 does include new manholes that have not been there before. So
Up the
while
alley.
it is more expensive, I don't know how that breaks out for those manholes for having the ability to clean the sewer lines.
Mm-hmm. I prefer option 2. Now, to me, the solution to the problem is, well, I don't think they should have to pay any of the cost to hook up to this. But honestly, I do not believe, Dan and my parents are all aware of this, no issues. When it comes to a private matter, really, they should be hashing it out and figuring this out and going from there. Now, that's not going to work out, obviously. But do you guys think it's fair to spend the $35,000 on the city's behalf and then have my parents spend, 5 to 7 all said and done to hook up?
Well, that would be eminently fair because the code puts that responsibility on the owner if it's established that they have to hook up, okay? And when you consider the fact that if we can't work this out, we're going to go to court, just the cost alone of litigating, even if you were to have.
Nobody wants to go to court. Yeah.
What's that?
We don't want to go to court.
Well, we don't want to go to court either, but you see my point. We're probably going to prevail. That's the least my analysis. We're probably going to prevail in court. And once that happens, once the court makes that finding, then the code is very clear that that cost is on the abutting owner who must connect. So if the council's proposing, if they were to do that, I don't even know that there's a consensus that they're going to, but if they were to run sewer pursuant to option 2, I think you would be not reasonable at all not to agree to pay your share to connect. I mean, that would be a massive concession by the city to do that.
Now I'm just throwing ideas out. When they install the sewer, the company that, I don't know who bid this job, but can they just do the entire project at once? And would there be an economy of scales benefit or, a location benefit where they're doing the work for the city and they just do the whole kit and caboodle at the exact same time, but we predetermine that cost for, from the right of way to the house, instead of having multiple companies come in?
Well, we would have that option to force connection and forcibly do that work if a citizen did not agree to do it.
Well, I'm just.
So we could address that with, what I'm saying is we could address that with the contractor if the council chooses to go in that direction. And that would probably save a little bit of money. And of course, you also have the option, if you don't want to pay in cash, to have that amount assessed. And we could assess it as well. And that would, of course, spread the payments out over a long period of time with your property taxes. So I don't know how long, but it's something that could be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to give the council all its options here.
No, I understand, Pat.
So that it knows, what else it can possibly consider.
How deep do we have to be for the houses on the east side of North Williams to hook into the sewer line?
I don't know the exact answer to that question, but I think it's pretty impractical. That'd be really deep.
I realize that. I'm just. Okay.
Because it's lower on that side.
Oh, I know. I
Drops
know
off
all
in a
about
hurry.
that. But I'm just saying, how deep do we have to be for them to hook in? Asking the question.
Well, below their bottom of their basement.
I know, and I know their basement sits quite low, below the street level, but
And beyond that, whatever line has to drain into the next pipe, which is at a lower elevation, which is probably the bigger problem, because even if you got the main on Williams low enough, you may have to pump it up to the next main, because they're not, low enough to receive that water.
I was up there this weekend. I looked things over and see where his house is at. I went down into Dan's basement, take a look at that. His line is coming in below Dan's line.
right.
That's a problem right there. I'm surprised there weren't problems prior to that. Because it's got to go up in his line under pressure. And the only pressure that they've got is what's coming out of their house.
Right, but before that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lines were matched up. You raised your line.
I did, not knowing there was a
Yeah.
connection.
So there wasn't a problem because the lines
Yeah,
matched
now
up
it is,
before.
yeah.
But because of the fire and the remodel and everything, things have changed.
So we don't have a choice as far as having to do something. It's just a question of what.
Right.
Now, I'm not
Reminder to
going
speak up.
Send 8 inch down from Williams and Pine. Will the city be responsible for that sewer line that far, or what? How's that gonna work?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Well, if we put a sewer main in Williams Street, this is a city sewer main. We put the sewer main in. That belongs to the city, correct?
Correct.
Mhm.
And then they tie into that point.
And this 25,000, that is for our part of the bill?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
they paying for it all?
No,
No,
that's ours.
that's our
that's the
part.
city's cost with you city. Nothing to do with their cost. I have no input on that part of it.
Now, option one leaves the sewer line on the opposite side of the road. That is, then when we hook ours in, we'd have to run our 4-inch line all the way across William Street to the east side. That doesn't seem ideal. I don't understand why option two is so much more, but option two brings it to the west side of William Street.
Primarily, option 2 involves directional boring versus that's why it costs.
Jacob, could you say that again but louder?
Yes, option 2 involves directional boring, which is why it's so much higher than option 1.
Can the city get official quotes to run it to the front of 402 North William Street, and then to do obviously a quote for that, and then while they're there, hook it into, actually finish the job, take the sewer line, come out of my folks' house, run it down, hook it all up. Obviously they could segregate the quote, but hopefully it'd be a better deal given they're there doing the work. And then we can take a look at it and see where we're at. Are these official quotes, or are they just estimates?
They're quotes. They're not an official bid, but they are quotes.
I bet they'd be pretty close. Company making the quotes, I think they'd be pretty good idea. Can run into some unknowns, but if things would go as normal, I think it would. And if they'd be willing, then if the same company could just hook them up, like I said, maybe they'll give them a better price than getting 2 different contractors in there trying to work together. Something to check on.
Something to look into.
want to go that route?
I think maybe we ought to make a motion to do that and set a time to have this thing taken care of, so it's done.
Yes, needs to be addressed.
We talked it over. I mean, there's no sense arguing. We know what we gotta do. We know they're gonna have to spend some money. We're gonna have to do what we need to do, but I just need to decide what we wanna do. Get it, and I think, like Jacob was saying, that there's a possibility of getting a quote and maybe and you brought up something about getting a quote from the same contractor to do that and to see what we come up with. In the meantime, if they want to get a quote for themselves from a separate contractor, so they have something to compare with. Can you hear me when I'm saying this?
I can hear you.
You must have cut off.
No, I'm here.
What I'm thinking is you guys should get a quote from a separate contractor to see what it's gonna cost. We will get a quote from a contractor who may put in the lines and make put the line into your house and see if that process would cost less because they do it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is right now, we need to get something done and move on this. So we need to decide tonight on that. So that would be something, would you be willing to do?
Yeah, I'll have my parents get an estimate for that. I need our option 2 is going to be the least costly for them based on what I can tell, just because of the sheer location of the city line. But I would need to know.
And we'll take care of this on this side.
I would need to know. I would need to know what option you're pursuing.
Yeah, we gotta decide if we're doing option 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, we've got to decide which option we're going to go with.
That's fine. You guys decide.
But I don't believe the contractor, the type of contractors that are gonna do the boring and that, do the hookups to the house. And the hookups from the house are normally your plumber type companies, whereas it's a lot bigger outfit that's gonna be, running from the sewer main to the house that,
Yeah, I think that's generally correct. I don't know if they do want to do it or not.
I would, if we're willing to do this, I would just say we do our part and they handle their
I
end
would
and
agree.
we just stay out of it.
I would agree.
That would be my opinion.
So could someone please clarify what option you're giving the consideration to at this point? I'm not looking for a motion. I'm just looking for clarification to what option.
As far as clarification, how I'm understanding it, we go with option 2. And the property owners would be on their own responsible for contacting a plumbing type contractor to connect from theirs to this new sewer. Okay.
And we have to give them a timeline after the sewer line goes in.
How soon can we start on the sewer line?
Well, that's not gonna happen for a while.
2 weeks,
2 weeks?
what I was told.
I guess he's okay with option 2. Option 2 to me seems like a good way to go.
Yeah,
My thoughts anyway.
yeah, I agree with that.
So let me clarify something though. It's 2 weeks for the boring once we decide, is that correct?
To bore and set a manhole, he told me it'd be approximately 2 weeks.
Okay, what about getting the DNR construction permit?
That's already in process. Depending on your decision tonight, whatever you guys decide, Lindsay's already ready to pull the trigger.
And how long will it take to get that permit?
Shouldn't take very long.
Okay.
How long would it take to get a solid quote?
The quotes I provided you were solid quotes as of last week. All 3 options by the estimator.
They're solid. In other words, they're not going to change it.
They may change depending on how deep the man or how deep Cody's parents are.
Some change. I just.
They don't know the depth of their sewer coming out of their house. That's one thing that you need to know.
It's comes out the wall, so it's not very far down.
Just an approximate depth, Cody.
It's about a foot up from the foundation floor, so I would say probably about 4 foot down.
How deep is their basement, I guess?
The basement would probably be 7 foot basement, so yeah, it's probably about 4 to 5 foot down.
So option, if we would go to option 2, this expenditure would be for one connection only.
Yeah.
It's not like there's any future that can tie into this.
They would have to go underneath the street and hook in at that location, is that correct? If a future house across the street wanted to tie in.
I don't think they
I
could.
don't
because
think
of
they
that.
could.
The basements are so deep on our side that it wouldn't be feasible.
That's why I was asking how deep we would have to go to hook them in, because they're so low. We'd have to really go deep.
And with this one, they wouldn't have to go that deep. I mean, their house is kind of on a hill.
Right.
And
I guess I need a little bit of clarification on why option 2 appears to be better than option 1.
From his standpoint, it's because it costs them less. Because if it's on the east side of the street, they're gonna have to bore, further, and it'd be a longer run from their house to the option 1.
but that would be more in the middle as far as who's covering costs. though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, for $10,000, that's a lot, I think.
Guys, we need a motion tonight, or what do we do?
Well, I certainly not about kicking the can down the road further.
I think we need to decide something tonight.
Something we need to decide tonight.
Yep.
Get this done.
Okay, I'll move we select
Before you-
option 1.
Before you make that motion,
Okay,
I understand the situation the ceilings are in. I also have to give strong consideration to the city and the money they're going to be spending. $35,000 out of pocket for the city to make available to one resident a sewer line. I don't know if that's being real frugal. There's been several people that have heard me say, once again, this council has to pay for past sins of decisions that were made in prior. Is it a possibility to consider option 1 on a cost share?
Did you hear her motion?
I cut her off before.
Well, she finished it at option 1.
okay.
Go ahead. My apologies.
All right. I motion that we consider option 1 with possible discussion of a cost share. If it comes in under, oh, see, I could just go on and on, but $10,000 is a lot of money. If there could be something mediated between the two, between the city and the Sealy's to
Well,
share.
At one time, I did ask Jacob about if there was a way we could have, I don't know, either use LMI money or some other funds to possibly lend them at a low to 0% interest rate for a return of over 7 years or payback over 7 years or something of that nature.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know if you've looked into if we could do that with LMI or not.
I think Pat alluded to the best option, which would be assessing that cost to your taxes. So it kind of works the same way.
Okay.
Okay.
If that's agreeable, I think we can do that.
Well, I'm going to second Kay's motion.
were you looking at a 50% cost?
No,
share?
I was looking at something like allowing the city to finance and spread it over a period of time, as Jacob suggested. His words were just better than mine.
Guys, I have a question. You know, my mom actually got a bid to have this done, and it was going to be like 20-some thousand for the entire project. Why? That would be running a 4-inch line all the way, which actually by code would be non-conforming because of the distance. However, it's a big cost difference. I would be curious to know the cost difference from having it option 1 to 2. I understand your cost difference is 10,000, which I would be curious to know the cost difference to us, you know, because I can't imagine it would cost $10,000 more to run it across the street, the 4-inch line. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It does to me, yes.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but our costs are going to be more than yours because I'm not sure what size line, but I'm assuming it's more than a 4-inch.
It's an 8-inch.
Also, I think do all options, Dan, included a manhole?
It was a 6-inch with a manhole, if my
So-
memory corrects me.
So if we bring a service line from the house to the manhole at the northeast corner of Pine and Williams, there's no manhole involved. That drops the cost substantially, but instead of putting in a 6-inch line and a manhole, our costs are going to be more.
I got it correct, it's an 8-inch line.
8-inch on option
It's
one.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, this says the clean out at one end. Are you talking just clean out, or are you talking a man on option 1?
Option 1, in my understanding, was a manhole set the right of way.
Connection to an existing manhole.
Correct.
Yeah.
At
And then-
Pine Street,
With a clean out on the end.
at their connection, for their benefit,
Okay, so that would be a clean out, not a manhole.
for their benefit. So you go that far, then the other house or two on there, it wouldn't reach if they'd ever want to come up to Williams. I guess you could always extend that then, but, I mean, still, if it's cheaper, make that work, it'll run someday be the option, but are they gonna dig the one on that side of Williams then deep enough that eventually they could hook up?
Well,
I doubt it.
like the unfortunate part is on that side of the street, like we were talking about, if you dig it deep enough for those houses to hook in, it's where it's gonna hook into Pine or Sycamore, then could be a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
We end up having to pump it.
Yeah, we'd have to have a lift in.
Yeah.
So, Kay, for restating of your motion, option 1, the city fund this,
The city
100% of
funds
it.
the $25,000, and then we can use okay, Jacob, help me out here.
We can assess the cost of the service line through the property taxes.
And we would pay it right now, is
You
that
would pay it
correct?
upfront, they would
Yeah,
pay
we
it
would
back
pay it
over time.
Thank you.
Their portion of the service line is not part of this 25,000.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So the city is paying 100% of the 25,000.
I believe so.
I want to make sure I understand your
Yes.
motion.
So where are we talking about on the assessment of the taxes?
It'd be, if I understand K right, that's on the service line portion. We would install the whole thing, get them hooked up, and then they would be assessed for the
I was
service
under the
line.
impression we take 25,000, get it there, and from there on out, it's their responsibility to get a contract
they would or we could, but then whatever that cost is goes onto their taxes and is spread out over 7, 10 years.
Something like that. They can get their quote, we can get a quote with or without that, and whichever other option they decide to go with, they can either pay it up front or they can pay over time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now, alternatively, if I understood Cody, they had a quote to attach to the existing manhole on Pine Street for, did you say $20,000?
Yeah, I believe it was just a little over 20.
Now, if they were comfortable with having that direct connection with no city extension, just throwing out an idea, I mean, in lieu of us battling it out in court, is that the cheapest option to get things resolved, and maybe the city chips into that cost and it's cheaper for everybody? Throwing out an idea. Makes sense. It's kind of weird, but.
Well, it is, but, you know, there's some questions about that in that then it's a private line all the way there. It's a 4-inch line. If something should happen from the right of way to the manhole, whose responsibility is it?
I think if we did that, we would have to say, once it's completed, it's the responsibility of the private owner. And maybe they're not interested. I'm just throwing out.
Right, and that's where I was going is that's a, you know, once
Private service line.
it's a private service line, so they may want the shorter run.
Well, I'm speaking from experience. The homeowner is responsible. It's under the road, wherever it is. If it's a private line, single private line, the homeowner is responsible.
They're responsible up until the main.
Yeah.
The bid was 20,800. Economically, obviously, it makes sense, but unfortunately, based on your code, it wouldn't be compliant because of the length of the line. And you're right, we would have issues. Nobody would want to have a private line running so far under city right of way, just because of the sheer liability of it. It would have to be dedicated to the city in some manner, but it would again be a non-conforming line because it'd only be a 4-inch line going too far. But I agree with Jacob.
We wouldn't agree that would be non-conforming, but if you're not agreeable to that solution, then we can just move on.
Well, I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine with discussing it. I'll talk to my folks about that. I mean, if that's an option, we can certainly talk about it because obviously it's cheaper for the city by far. You know, I would just want to be sure that they wouldn't be liable for that entire run. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the only way we could make it work though is that once it's complete, it would be entirely the private responsibility.
Yeah, and I don't think that's ideal.
I'm not discounting their quote, but a lot of times the old saying, you get what you pay for, and I'd be interested in who's quoting it. What we got is a very top-notch contractor that I would have no concerns with.
Well, and there's a difference that they're running a 4-inch line, we're running an 8-inch line. So there's a difference there. I mean, it's not an apples to apples comparison.
No, not at all. I agree.
Would make resale of that property terribly difficult, I would think. I wouldn't buy a property where I had responsibility for the extension of the sewer line.
Well, it's a service line like any other property. There's frankly lots of properties in town with a service line in that range of length, 130 feet, 100. I mean, there are some that are longer than the 150, which is the length in code. Again, there are non-conformities. We just don't see those as severe like this case.
I'll still go back to my motion. Option 1.
Well, it's motion made and second. Patrick, from a legal position, is there any advisement with option 1? Any additional advisement with option 1?
Well, I would prefer not to get into confidential attorney-client advice in an open meeting. I think you all know, though, and I don't think I'm spilling the beans here, that there's no lawful obligation on the part of the city to do this. This would strictly be a compromise, and you're free to do it. That's the only comment I would make in a public setting like this, and I would refer you to my memo. Of course, we do have an agenda item to go into closed session under 21.51C if you really feel you need to do that. But that's all I would be willing to state in front of everyone else, because I don't want to compromise the attorney-client privilege.
Well, that's, because the way the agenda is set up, we could go into closed session for further discussion. Closed session would be council and city attorney only. Or I call a vote on the motion that's on the floor.
I'd say let's call a vote right now.
We need to work with the citizens too. I mean, let's see, at least try and get something, like Rich said, get something settled in Allen. Make both sides not be happy, but at least get something done tonight.
All right, there's a motion by Kay, second by Rich to proceed with option one. Extend an 8-inch line to Williams Pine within the east right-of-way of Williams, approximately 115 linear feet with clean out on the end. Includes connection to the existing manhole, trenchless or trenched construction within right-of-way and street patching. Due to the sensitivity of this, I'm going to ask this to be a roll vote. I believe we are.
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to proceed with option one is unanimous.
Now I have a question. If it's going to be, you said 2 weeks, so 2 weeks to 3 weeks complete, how long do they have then to hook up? Is it-
It's a good point. There needs to be.
Well, I guess it depends on if we're doing the work or if they are.
But I mean, if we get it done in 3 weeks, do they have another 3 weeks to get it? Because now they know what our option is. They can start their process of getting bids, but we need to, kind of keep this ball rolling.
I guess we coordinate it, and before we do ours, they need to have their quote, they need to have a set date that their contract will be available, and kind of coordinate between the two. So we have a little more urgency on their end.
So Cody,
Yes.
you might want to be in contact with City Hall to find out the process, the progress, the time frame, so that you can let your folks know so that we can kind of coordinate.
Yeah, just give me updates. Jacob has my email,
Okay,
has my phone number. Pat.
all right.
Cody,
Yes.
thank you for working with us.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Well, at least you guys didn't have to go in a closed session, so that's good. Because those aren't any fun.
Well, thanks, Cody. Patrick, thanks for assisting with this.
I'm happy to help. I'm going to have to jump off because I've got to go make a presentation in another council meeting, but feel free to contact me if you have questions going forward. I'm sure there will be some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
7.4.
Thanks, guys.
Third reading and approval of ordinance amending chapter 4, municipal infractions, chapter 51, junk vehicles, chapter 52, lawn maintenance, chapter 145, dangerous buildings, repealing, replacing chapter nuisance abatement of the city code of ordinances.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Any further discussion?
You have a couple of questions just on this. Are we looking at the whole ordinance as a whole? I mean, because there was a couple things that popped out, I guess, as far as one was junk vehicles, and it mentions that it, a licensed motor vehicle that hasn't moved for 15 days. Have we ever considered any verbiage for, say, equipment? I mean, you think of your token riding lawnmower that's been sitting in the yard for 2 years. I mean, that one isn't really defined by.
Well, I guess that would be up to.
But isn't that a junk vehicle?
And by the definition, it's gotta be a junk
Really?
vehicle. It says
It's gotta be a car?
it's untitled. I mean, it mentions that it hasn't been titled and.
No.
Find it here again.
Well, then you got the definition of nuisance. Whatever is injurious to health and you sort of want to read.
I think that's defined elsewhere.
Okay, that was just a.
Let me double check.
Just a heads up, the people on Jeff's side of the room, I think you're further away from the iPad microphone, so you're more difficult to hear. So just remember to speak up.
All right, thanks, Rebecca.
Number one is no person shall keep, store, or display one or more vehicles outdoors on property for residential use for more than 15 days without movement. Use of vehicle, operating motor vehicle. I don't know, it just jumped out at me. Because I know some, I guess I know of some instances in town that is a problem. I think that should be defined and take care of that.
That for 2 years ago was considered junk. That's what I would consider it under, and we can.
There's one up there, there's a couple that I had in mind on that.
We can have that argument in court if it comes to it.
Well, okay, I'm gonna say it. When someone complains about grass growing in the seam of a sidewalk, more than they complain about a lawnmower that's been set for 2 years. We all need to re-examine our heads. Just saying.
Other question I had was it has X'd out the penalty for the nuisance. Is the updated amount in there? It X's out the $750 or not to exceed $1,000. Is there an updated amount, or is that just because that section's not referenced in the changes? What page?
No, it's 5108.
At 51. Well, yeah, 5108.
So it removes the specific penalty in the lawn in each section. In chapter 50, it has the basic nuisance abatement procedure, which can be followed, but it also provides a second route if it seems more convenient for the particular situation to just give a municipal infraction. And that municipal infraction can vary on the amount, depending on the specific offense. So I don't think there's an exact amount underneath the municipal infraction. By state code, it can only be, I can't remember, but it has an upper limit by state code. Otherwise, we just follow the procedure in chapter 50 for the nuisance abatement.
Any further discussion? Beth, this is a roll vote.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Zumba.
Yeah.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
7.4, approval of third reading carries unanimously. 7.5, third reading and approval of ordinance amending chapter 1 as well as various penalty provisions of the Anamosa, Iowa Code of Ordinances.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Any further discussion? Beth, this is also a roll call.
Capron,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Motion to approve third reading of the ordinance carried unanimously. 7.6, resolution amending the City of Anamosa's personnel policies. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Moved.
Second. Motion by Galen. Second by Allen. Any further discussion?
I would still like to see it somewhat cut down some more, but
So would I. It's wordy, reading level is too high. I could go on and on, but I've got my envelope. So,
Example? Can you give me an example?
well, a lot of the safety stuff was removed, rightfully so, but it doesn't talk about it being available in another place. I had questions about all right, so there's full-time help, there's part-time help, and there's temporary help. But what are the people that work at the pool?
They're temporary.
But so do they fall under the regs of this personnel policy or what Shelley has constructed for them?
They would fall under this policy, I guess both. So, yeah, so
Where is supersede there?
if there's a conflict, yes. But I don't know off the top of my head what she's providing. My understanding what she's providing is more of a related to their responsibilities more than actual conduct, if that makes sense.
But they run mowers, they do shoveling, they do weed whacking, they do all kinds of things. I just think it's very wordy, very difficult to understand.
Unless Galen wants to amend his motion, I'll call this to a vote. Beth?
Lockhart,
No.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Crump,
no.
Smith.
No.
We have 3 yes votes and 3 no votes. Jacob, is this one that the mayor vote on because of the tie? Or is this
Because it's a resolution, you cannot.
at this time 7.6? ayes for a lack of majority. 7.7, resolution amending contributions to outside agencies established in resolution 2020-11 due to COVID-19 impact on city revenues.
As instructed, I attempted to reach out to every agency. I was not able to make contact with every single one, but the majority of them. I called Iowa State University Extension, but did not get a response. And what we submitted or approved prior was $500. So in the scheme of things, not that big of a deal. Jones County Tourism indicated that it would be very hard for them to continue operating without their contribution. Although again, theirs is already set up in a way that kind of protects our interests because they have a percentage of hotel motel taxes. So we're for sure not going to pay out the money we receive. But that was just their comment on things. They couldn't really see a way to cut it back any further. Did not hear back from Jets. I think that's a vital service.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Chamber of Commerce, again, indicated it's a huge part of their budget and they would have serious issues if we cut it back further than already established. There's like tourism have a percentage-based system with a cap of 12,500. Jones County Economic Development ideally said they would not have any deduction, but was not as hard and fast about that. Did not hear back from Jones County Senior Dining, but I think that's a vital service that we should continue funding. I can't see that being decreased in.
But that comes out of general fund, right?
That does. As do a few of the others, but if we keep our commitments on the ones that are hotel motel, will ultimately come out of general fund as well.
Right.
Jones County Safe and Healthy Youth Coalition said they may be able to take a little bit of a cut. They threw out $2,000 instead of the $3,000 attributed, but they wanted to emphasize that next year was very important as they're in their last year of their major grant funding, so that they could take a little bit of reduction this year, but they really need the full support next year. I did not reach out to keep Iowa Beautiful because my understanding is that's like an obligation that we have to keep, not really optional. National Motorcycle Museum kind of indicated they weren't sure they were expecting the money in anyway, given the circumstances. I mean, they certainly would like some funding, but they're willing to work with the city, make sure everybody's in the best situation. Grantwood Art Gallery essentially just said it'd be really tough for them. They've already, they're expecting this revenue. They budgeted for it. Not that they couldn't make it work with a modification, but it would be very tough for them. And Cedar Jones Early Childhood Development, again, just indicated that they could continue on with the modification of that $1,000, but they think their mission's important, that they're essentially buying books for children, and so they felt that their mission is more critical now that a lot of kids are cooped up at home. Getting these books to them provides them education that they might not otherwise be getting. So again, basically, if you cut that back, it just means less books. Not that it would ruin their organization. Starlighters 2 said they could would recommend actually reducing down to 500 because they canceled their summer camp this year, although they want to do it again in the future. They had I think a deposit of $500 for something related to the camp that they're still paying and would like to be reimbursed for, but they could save the $2,500 this year and hopefully get it next year. That is what I found out. I don't have a specific resolution drafted, but that's the information.
Thank you.
And in discussion with Beth, I mean, it may not make sense to make a decision tonight. When are we expecting our first hotel motel of the fiscal year then?
Middle of August.
So it may make sense to wait till after that and get an idea where things are at. Talking with Bob Hatcher with Jones County Tourism, he was talking with the hotels in town, and granted, we were next to nothing this spring, but he said they are starting to see people coming back. So maybe I mean, again, I don't think it'll be what we projected, but at least we'll have a better idea of what we're truly getting.
Yeah, because their July and August are not going to be what they've been in the past because of no fair, no rec ride, no motorcycle, anything. So their numbers are going to be down no matter what. But I like the fact that some of these people were willing to step, Motorcycle Museum realize the effect of what everything's happening. I appreciate that. I appreciate the Starlighters and Coalition. I appreciate them willing to listen and work. But I think maybe we ought to just send a letter then to everybody and say, until we know what we're going to be receiving and what the future holds, be prepared to maybe not receive what you expect. And just put them on notice, and then, like you said, we can wait and see when we get our money in. If it's starting to pick up, great. If it's not picking up, we can make a decision then.
Good idea, Jacob, thank you.
So City Hall can coordinate a letter of notification. Do you want to make a motion to review this then at your September first meeting in September?
I'll move to do that. I'll move to reassess the situation after we get information in August.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alan, second by Kay, to table agenda item 7.7 until the first meeting in September. As more information will be available. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to table carried unanimously. 8.0, new business. Discussion and possible action regarding concerns over residential sewer backups near 2nd Street lift station. Dan, is there anything that you can report to council regarding this agenda item?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So it's been 2 weeks ago, I do believe, on a Saturday. I was informed that dispatch was trying to get a hold of me because 2nd Street lift station had failed. Upon arrival down there, Rachel met me down there, and there's a USB backup battery power pack that controls the floats, the auto dialer, everything essential to that lift station failed. I walked in the door, turned the pumps on manually,
and determined that it had actually burned up.
Backup, battery backup.
Yeah, it failed. And with that, the pumps weren't running. It tells everything essential with that lift station to what to do. Even call us at home if we have to. It didn't do any of that. And unfortunately, it did get sewer in 2 homes. We understand it. I did talk to one gentleman, I think his name was Jones, across the street from the lift station. Explained to him that we were working on it, and as soon as I pumped it down, it corrected itself. Little damage around the floor drains. I do feel sorry for them. The thing I can say to you folks is nothing is foolproof and things fail. I did the best I could with what I had at that time. Since then, I've had a control guy come in, go through the whole system, put a new backup battery power in, have looked at mission controls, and Jacob authorized me today to order a backup for a backup, essentially. It's just redundancy, and the cost for them units are $1,500, which to me is cheap. With the ongoing situation with that lift station and our retention tanks and heavy rains and storms, things happen. And unfortunately, I can't be there all the time. So I've already looked into ways to prevent it from happening, hopefully, and hopefully the weather cooperates and we have a backup plan for a backup.
How soon can we get the backup for the backup in?
I ordered them today.
And that's not just for that station, but the other station you didn't back up.
I actually want to put one at the reformatory. It's the same unit, and I can put it on their pumps behind their flow meter. So if their flow meter fails, we'll know exactly how many gallons a day they pump us. This thing calls me or it texts me every morning at 5 o'clock. I have one at Rosemary. So yesterday morning, I pumped 117,000 gallons through that lift station. I didn't have it on 2nd Street. It was just kind of a trial thing. So.
The one at Rosemary was the trial.
Yep. And I'm looking at putting them on all our lift stations.
So if it goes down, do you don't get an alarm or a message saying they go down?
These things are pretty much wired direct. So there's not very many electronics with it. The one at the 2nd Street lift station is more intense, it calls you for high float alarms, seal fails on pumps. It calls you if there's a makeup air unit that fails.
And the generator that's there, you're using?
It has to tell it what to do.
But I mean, your backup batteries went down.
Yep.
So why didn't the generator kick in?
It's basically the brain for the whole lift station. So it tells the generator to kick in, it tells the pumps to kick in, the floats to kick in, everything.
So your generator's not set up to kick in as soon as the power goes down?
It didn't relay the message to the generator. The brain was pretty much fried.
But the power didn't go down.
No.
The control.
For all your pumps.
Your pump you just fried that?
Yep, and everything in the controls in the whole building were down. The touch screen was completely dead when I walked in. I walked over to the VFDs and turned them on manual to pump it down. And I was on the phone with an electrician.
What caused it? Any idea?
He said they just fail every couple of years. Not the answer I wanted, but he goes, it could have been a power surge or anything.
So how often do you change those batteries?
Well, funny you said that, because I ordered a spare just to have on hand.
Because usually if it's like the battery backups that we have, they start beeping and chirping long before they go out. So
it doesn't tell me. I'm there, once in a while, but I'm not there all the time to hear if it starts chirping.
Well, it might be, a routine or checklist item of go in once every 3 days or something.
If this was a surge related matter, it would have just popped those batteries and they never would have gave an indication.
I could actually smell burnt wires when we pulled it out. So I was like, it had to be internal in that.
Yeah.
But I do have a backup plan. I hope the mission controls work the way I think they will. And I think
it'd be the best thing to do.
The backups on a separate circuit, so they aren't
Yep.
in contact with each other.
These actually sit outside by the lift station on their own control box, everything. They're all sealed, weatherproof.
You can get them for all the lift stations.
I would like to eventually.
How many lift stations we have?
There's 5 of them.
That probably would tell them to do that.
It actually tells me a report every, it'll give you a monthly report, it'll give you a daily report. It's pretty intense.
Aren't they still checked every day?
Yeah, we write numbers down every morning.
You're not knowing the
But
reasons for
here
failure
again-
to be part of the problem.
Here again, that box relays the numbers down to the wastewater plant.
But they're not physically checked like they used to.
We do it remote. We do it off of a SCADA screen.
It's too bad that system, they don't have some kind of fail-safe that is hooked up in a way that if it finds out that it's not working correctly, it sends out an alarm. I don't understand why they don't have that.
It has to communicate, has to talk, that lift station has to talk to the tower, bounce a signal off the tower, and then go to the reader, and then we can actually get the information to the wastewater plant.
So
So
the full system
it's,
failure.
Yeah, I
completely
know.
Shuts it down.
There should have something in there that should.
Those messengers.
Well, if you're not dead, I would say there's something wrong.
Well,
Well, what the point I'm making is that you have some systems hooked into that, so if that system goes, this little box there is going, there's something wrong.
Well, the flip side of that is instead of saying that is if it could send out just a ping once an hour saying, I'm still online. And then on that hour, you don't get it. You don't get that message.
There's
You know
something
there's a
wrong.
problem. I
Yeah.
mean, at least then it's kind of the backside
That's my
of
point, is there any way
reverse.
that this geniuses that designed this thing could come up with something like that?
You're not talking to those geniuses right now.
so that's what happened.
But I would say this, that Second Street lift station with the amount of flow that goes through that,
I'm fully aware.
that probably needs to be physically checked. Once a day.
It does everything from the east end of town, go to Rosemary and then second.
There's 3, so 130th Tower Road and Rosemary all dump into that lift station. So when that one fails, we got big problems.
There's a lot of backup.
It's pretty much from.
That's a new station, that's the problem.
Right. But with technology is what it is. Some days it's great, some days you, yeah.
You can rely on it too much sometimes.
Look at here, we got
Sometimes.
a issue with, wind. You know, you said, Dan, technology is great when it works in your favor.
Right.
Bill, would you like to address the council?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you, Ron. I'll follow up with Rich on something he said later.
Thank you very well.
But I'm looking at alternatives to alleviate the problems we have had, and I think that is the best option. I've done a lot of research on the mission controls, and I do like how they simplify things for operators. So I walked in Jake's office this morning, and he authorized me to order 2 of them, so.
Dan, I do have one question.
Sure.
If one of those systems fails, how long does it take for someone's house to back up?
That's a kind of a loaded question. It depends on how much it's raining and how much everybody's using the facilities. I would hope to think 4 hours to 5 hours capacity. I did call that bypass in Saturday night at 5 o'clock to the DNR, reported it Monday morning, told them what happened, and it was a mechanical failure or something.
4 to 5 hours capacity, in other words, we go about 4 to 5 hours. It can start backing up.
And I've had issues in that area before, just for the simple fact of the way the houses lay in below Banana Park.
Yeah.
They sit lower than the lift station. There's one right adjacent to it. I don't know the address, but there's a manhole actually. If we do bypass, it'll bypass into the creek.
Any suggestions on how we can maybe keep this from
Absolutely.
happening?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. The second phase of the Rosemary lift station or Second Street lift station is a directional bore, like a 12-inch line from Rosemary right directly to Second Street lift station. So I'm not going through all these residential areas when it's raining. It's basically a force main.
Okay.
So it'll take all the pressure off the gravity sewer in a big rain event. But the caveat to that is I have to get the 3 million gallon retention tank built first. So,
Okay. All right. That answers my question.
When you talk about the rain, Dan, and the conditions, addressing I&I in that area can also alleviate, so you don't have,
absolutely.
which might be
I just picked up
first
20,
attention.
I just picked up 25 manholes last week or week before and talked to Jacob about epoxy lining them for I&I. And then with the camera, you know where we're at with that. We're going to be doing some camera work and jetting work and what have you. So, keep them pretty busy.
If they can back up that quick, see if they can't send out a signal once an hour or something to notify you that, hey, we're still online.
The mission controls now are set up that way. If there's a glitch, it lets us know. Not only calls me, it calls Dave. So the redundancy within the wastewater department.
I mean, at that rate, it could be, who knows, until somebody has sewer in their.
I wouldn't have never
their
known.
basement.
I would have never known this if they wouldn't have called the dispatcher. There was
Yeah.
an alarm going off, nothing. It was just, here we are.
Because that's a critical lift station.
Absolutely.
Those are on any station,
Any lift
they're all
station.
critical.
Well, they are, but when you consider the flow through that one,
Correct.
it is more so because it's pulling in, what do you say, 5 others?
3 others.
3 other lift stations. So it's critical.
You've got about 130.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Yeah, he said 130.
But one piece of the puzzle fails, the whole puzzle. So that's kind of where I was at.
Okay.
Anything else?
Don't go anywhere. Rebecca, is there any public questions or comments on this agenda item?
Yes, there is. I am going to go ahead and unmute Curtis. If you could state your name and your address for the council and speak up so they can hear you.
My name is Curtis Jones. I live at 609 East 2nd Street. My concern is I'm the one that usually backs up first as far as I know. I'm the one that's straight across from the lift station. This wasn't just a one-time event. It's happened at least 3 times that I've lived here, and I moved in end of April last year. And it seems like each time that this lift station has had a failure where it did not send out a message. Each time I've had to call dispatch to get it remedied. Luckily, nothing has gotten out of hand to cause any damage yet. I just want to get this taken care of before it does get out of hand. I've heard everything you guys were talking about. I definitely like the idea of the hourly ping to let someone know that the system's still up and running. And I have been informed, if I hear the red alarm going off outside, call someone. But like I said, it seems like the alert system has been failing. So if that fails, then obviously no one knows.
Curtis, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If this has happened a couple of times, have you put on a backflow?
From what I was understood is that there was a backflow installed before I purchased the house, which may have been damaged when I had a backup after I first moved in. But after talking to some plumbers, the backflow has actually been incorrectly installed because it's supposed to be able to access it to clean it out because these things do have a lifespan. And I have found out that the backflow preventer was installed about 4 feet underground outside the house. And it should be installed in the basement under the concrete with an access panel. But I also discussed with the plumbers that even if I did have a backflow preventer, yes, it would stop these sewage from the main coming in. But if I use my own system, it would not be able to get out, so I would still end up backing up.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, Curtis, it's unfortunate that it happened, but it was more a mechanical failure than anything else. And I do everything in my power to prevent anybody from having sewer in the basement. I would suggest you get your backflow preventer fixed just for your own safety, because there's no guarantees that anything can happen. And like I said, I do appreciate it when you do call when there's a problem, because things do happen. Like I said, this thing completely burned up and I controlled every aspect of that lift station. And I do apologize that it happened. That's all I can say.
That is Dan, correct?
Right.
Okay. As I said before, I appreciate you coming out and, you know, getting this system back up and running. But, you know, the lift station itself cost, what was it, 1.2 million? And the whole project of phase 1 seemed to be is just shy of 2 million. For that kind of a cost, I mean, it should be fairly foolproof. I mean, I know nothing's perfect, but, you know, 3 times over the past year at least seems a little excessive for, you know, spending that kind of money on a system.
Curtis, and I don't mean to interrupt you. If memory serves me, I do believe one time might have been a generator, but the other time was a high rain event. And high rain events, I can't even control that. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you, it is just kind of the what we have to deal with as wastewater operators and operators.
And I understand that high rains, you know, can affect the system. But it was still the fact that the system went down. It wasn't, you know, that it was simply overloaded. It was non-functioning, because as soon as someone showed up, opened the door or went inside, turned the system on, all the little bit of sewage backup I had in my basement was instantly gone. It sucked it right down. So that tells me the system can keep up with the high rain situation. It's just that the system is failing.
Hopefully the backup system you're putting in and later on the bypass type system that we're going to put in will solve this problem. And maybe with this backup, it'll keep this from happening until we get the rest of it together. We're going to do what we can.
And I appreciate it. I really do. And same aspect, I hope it does take care of the problem. Like I said, I just don't want to get this to become a major problem.
Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Rebecca, do you have anyone else that has comment or question regarding this?
No, I don't see any.
I would say that 8.1, there would be no, we've had the discussion, there's no action to take.
Dan needs to investigate his options on alarms and backups of backups and whatever else he needs to do.
Hit the ground running.
See what you can come up with.
I plan on. Thank you.
Keep us abreast, will you, Dan?
Sure.
Thank you.
Appreciate your effort.
8.2, resolution approving the hiring and setting salary for 2 full-time patrol officers in the Anamosa Police Department for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Alan. Any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor of? I'm sorry. Beth has informed me that this is a roll vote.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Motion to approve the salaries as submitted and the hiring approved unanimous. 8.3, resolution adopting the Jones County multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. There's another link.
Move to approve.
Second. A lot of interesting information in that. It was enjoyable to read. Okay, don't laugh.
I was excited when I was done.
I went out and wanted my wife to read it. It was so intriguing.
Any further discussion on that lengthy report? This is a roll vote.
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes, if I don't have to read it again.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 8.4, amendment to water treatment plan expansion contract between the city of Anamosa and Kalachi Construction Company. Jacob, can
This just finalizes what we've essentially already agreed to, so there was roughly $200,000 remaining on the contract. City has approved payment to subcontractors in the amount roughly of $120,000, and Colossians paid off the rest of the $80,000. This closes out our contract with them.
So there's not an amendment to what we agreed upon.
No. So if I understand it correct, what we had previously discussed was more mediation terms. This is an actual amendment to the construction contract. It was approved way before construction ever took place. So it's amending that document to reflect what we had mediated. So there's not really any change to the path going forward, but to close it out, we want to amend that contract.
So have they paid all the contractors and got lien waivers from everybody that they were assigned to pay?
They've either paid, there was a few where they had special bonded out. But we have either a lien waiver or that bond that guarantees us they're going to get paid in some shape or form. We've made all our payments, I believe.
Will we receive some type of notification when everyone's paid and this is a bad number?
I don't believe we are requiring them to provide us further notification on the payments.
And so we'd have to play a wait and see if somebody rings our call.
I mean, we can ask them to do so, or again, the bond company's gonna want to figure these out. They're not gonna want to drag it out either.
So I would hope, yes. Entertain a motion to amend.
So moved.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan to amend the initial water treatment expansion contract between Anamosa and Kalachi Construction. Any further discussion? Any public comment?
No, there is not.
Thank you. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. 8.5, resolution setting public hearing on proposal to sell real estate property directly north and adjacent to 216 East Main Street, Anamosa.
So I move that the public hearing will be on the 27th of July, 2020. at 5 p.m.
Second.
We're at Kate.
At the council meeting, the council chambers. I assume it will be here, Bill. Mhm.
Motion by Kay, second by Galen to set the public hearing for July 27th, 2020, which would be the next council meeting at the Anamosa Library Learning Center.
And I asked a question. Do we feel that $1 per square foot is a fair amount? Or how, are we just accepting that as his offer as being the fair amount?
An initial amount higher than that was proposed, and that was kind of negotiated out to be the fair value.
Like, I guess, I mean, I know this has been going on a couple, sorry,
Go ahead.
I guess, so my first question is, so it's referencing parcel the city currently owns, but there's a small sliver between where this property is and where the one he wants to buy is, that's the owner. That's not part of this agreement.
What this, well, again, all we're taking action tonight is set a public hearing, but to answer your question, the action we would take would address both parcels. We would only be selling the parcel we explicitly own, which is 968 square feet. We would also be giving any rights that we have. We're not sure if we have any, but if we do, we're giving them to him as well and try to clean this up. It's at his own cost if he wants to prove that it is. But we're just saying we no longer have a claim to that triangle piece, and we're not charging anything for that triangle piece.
Just a comment, go ahead, Bill. I interrupted you, go finish.
Well, I was just gonna ask, so you said this was the negotiated price. What was the original on our end?
What we started out with was the same price per square foot of the existing parcel, not including the building cost, but just the land, and that was roughly $5 a square foot.
Okay. So we go from $5 a square foot down to $1?
Yes.
I got a couple different issues, but if you look strictly at the cost, I mean, the adjacent ones in that neighborhood, like behind Burns and behind Velvet, I mean, those, I think normally it's my understanding it's been like 25 cents a square foot. That's been historically.
That's been historical.
I know this is different circumstances because of the whole story, what's going on here, you know, but which makes me hesitant to sell to him because he's actually asking for forgiveness instead of going about it the right way.
Well, that's why I was asking what the other value was that was attached to it. Because like you, I'm a little hesitant to just, if this was his offer, accepting his offer of $1 per square foot.
If it was a normal individual or business that was on good terms and went about it the right way and wanted to buy it, I think a lower value would be fine, but I guess, I don't know if this is appropriate time to discuss this, but where are we at as far as, is this what we come to, is just selling the property, but is there gonna be any, you know, fines, repercussions basically for what he did or didn't do on purpose?
There's no other action plan at this time. We're just trying to resolve the situation.
I guess
He corrected the issue, which is,
I guess I know we're just saying hearing, but I guess my take would be there needs to be some sort of a minimum monetary penalty, and he pays all legal and surveying or such costs, because I know if this happened in Lynn County, they'd make him tear it down and do it exact, take it back.
He's paid the surveying cost. We've brought this to court already, so he paid court fees.
Has he paid us any fine for his wrong?
Not a fine.
I mean, like, you know, you have like municipal infractions for like your nuisance and that. I mean, I haven't even done that. Yeah, I just know he's a repeat offender. I mean,
Well, and along with that, I think it was stated that there are utilities that run across this property.
There is stormwater utilities that run across the property. I'm trying to remember exactly where they run, but it's been a while since I looked at it.
Well, and so if we do sell this, I want to make sure that we're getting easements in place for that. And it's also stated that if we have to dig up the new cement and pour it back there, it's at his cost, not the city's cost.
it's already all cracked up.
Is it? But I don't know, I just feel there, like Jeff, there ought to be some penalty for this action.
I'm not $2 a square foot, and the penalty's kind of in it.
I'm not, certainly not trying to prevent the council from having this discussion, but I believe that discussion could occur during the public hearing. And not at this time as we are setting the public hearing.
I make a motion to accept the.
It's already been.
Oh, okay. Are we? been talking?
So if there's no other discussion about setting the public hearing, I'm going to ask Beth to conduct a roll call.
Crump,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba.
Yes.
Motion to set the public hearing of the real estate property for July 27th, carried unanimously. Discussion of, 8.6, discussion of possible action on arts donation program.
I just wanted to get this to the council's attention. I've been having a conversation with a person who works with various artists in the area, and a local artist by the name Catherine Jones Davies is looking at donating some of her work to various entities, including the city of Anamosa, if it's interested, just to be displayed wherever the city would deem worthwhile, whether it be the library, city hall, or community center, wherever. And so they were, engaging with the city, and if you guys are interested in doing that, some cities, the person I'm talking with, which is not the artist, has provided different agreements that like Cedar Rapids uses to accept public art, things like that. Some larger projects you require maybe somebody set aside help cost of insurance and things like that. But really, with this artwork, it would all be indoor paintings that wouldn't really require a whole lot of maintenance, maybe adjusting every year or something like that.
Jacob, could you repeat that?
City's interest.
What?
Could Jacob repeat that? He's getting quiet.
There's an artist interested in donating for work to the city if the council's interested. They provided some example donation agreements that other cities use. In this case, the artwork would just be paintings that wouldn't require a whole lot of work or maintenance other than the occasional dusting.
Do we have any indication of size? Are we talking 8 by 10 or 20 by 30?
At this point in the discussion, there's not specifics in terms of number of artworks or size of the artworks. My understanding that her work varies. There's really small stuff and maybe some larger stuff as well, but that we haven't gotten that far. Really, it was just to see, is the council interested in doing that or, not.
Depending on the size and number.
And so I don't have a whole lot more to go on. I know that's kind of limited for you guys to discuss, but again, given our circumstances, I just want to make sure that it was brought to your attention and you guys can take it from there.
Yeah, I'd like to probably have Rebecca and Shelley have a discussion if they want something on display or not within their buildings and how it might affect what they already have up.
I think it should be left up to people in the city and our municipal buildings. They can bring things to donate if they want. I donated a couple of pictures to the library here. And the dentist's office has got a bunch of my pictures that I donated, but I just went in and wanted to know if they wanted to display pictures. And I think that, I don't know if we should be getting involved in that or not. I don't know.
Jacob, does the donation limit itself to public buildings that the city owns, or could it be like Grantwood or Gallery or the Antioch School building?
So, I mean, my understanding, once the donations to the city can do whatever they want with them. If they want to pass them on to another entity like Grantwood, they could do that. Although it may not be the intention of the artist, but once it's donated, it's no longer theirs. They don't get a say. There would maybe be some terms that if it's displayed, certain things are posted with it. Maybe the artist and the artwork and those sorts of things.
Let's pursue the opportunity.
City Hall coordinate details surrounding this.
I can pass the contact information along to Beth.
That would be good.
So we'll just move forward with 8.6 is pending further information. 8.7, discussion of possible action on acquisition of the God Bless America sculpture.
Various entities in the community, specifically Anamosa and the Workmans are working to still bring the statue to the community. But the last time I met with them, trying to hammer out specifics and really get into the negotiations with the organization that owns the statue or sculpture. We needed to know on our end, who's ultimately going to own it. And it made most sense to us that the city would be that entity. So before they went any further, they really wanted some conversation and action from the council to say that you were willing to take on owning that piece of artwork, which, unlike what we discussed before, could have some serious maintenance involved, in terms of touch-up work and things like that. And again, I don't know for sure, but it takes some things like insurance and stuff of that matter to maintain the artwork.
Discussed as far as acquisition.
Well, let me see if I can't shed a little bit more with this. So Hometown Pride had a meeting today. What they suggested was that just go ahead, because it was on the agenda, inform the council that all they would be looking for at some point in time is the city say, yes, we will own it. There's a lot of details to be worked out. They are going to go back and try to attempt to answer all those questions that the council would have at that time. So right now, as it sits, 8.7 can be just passed over. Leanna, are you on the call?
I don't see her here.
So they're looking to secure the financing and all that. What came up was just would the city be interested in taking the ownership side of it? As far as maintenance and everything, it would be done through the private sector, but somebody has to be on the paper that they are doing. They will come before the city council and they work through all that and present at that time.
So they want a tentative approval that the
They
city,
do
or
not
they
even
do-
need
they
that.
don't even want that. Okay. Just on to the next thing then.
Would be
Okay.
my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Approval of 8.8, approval of application by Carter Valentine to join Anamosa Volunteer Fire Department.
So moved.
Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting Carter Valentine to the Anamosa Fire Department signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Just 8.9, discussion and possible action on the closure of Old Dubuque Road intersection with Highway 151. For council's information, the Board of Supervisors, I believe it wasn't last week, it was the previous week, they did approve during their meeting to close that portion of the intersection. I reached out to the DOT last week trying to get some information, and this came in very late today, so I did not have an opportunity to forward it on to Beth, to forward it on. This is from Mr. Sorensen with the Iowa Department of Transportation. We will be applying for contingency funding that, if approved, will take care of all the initial closure costs, signs, barricades, and 2 portable message boards. We would ask the local city maintenance staff, police, help with ongoing maintenance if they get blown over or moved, vandalized, until DOT staff can review. They will place the gate that can be opened in emergency situations. It appears at this time that there is no cost to the city. There is a meeting this coming Friday to work through more of these details. That is all I have as far as what items will be used to provide the safety side of the closure.
Still August 3rd.
Yes, they're looking at least that week, August 3rd, to close, which they want to have it done before school opens. If there's less confusion of trying to close it after that. The discussion from the council.
Well, I'm going back to, I think, Shane's comment from whenever it was about plowing snow. Has that discussion been had about what we're gonna do there?
Not the committee, the safety committee have not addressed that. I don't believe that would be their position to address.
Well, I'm just, thinking about what he said about you've got the barricades up. If you're plowing snow right now, you're probably just gonna push it So if we do get into an emergency situation, that snow's piled in front of the gate really does no good to be able to open it up unless we could get that snow removed from that area.
They push it up in there and take like a skid loader and loader to push it off either side so it's still be open.
We're gonna have to do something.
Probably gonna have to open the gate, just shove it.
Keep it inside.
Well, that's easy as long as that snow pile doesn't become ice. I think we need to consider that part.
When you pile it up, it's gonna drift more. You know, if you put a big pile, just shove it off. Next time it blows, I mean, then you blow, needs to be addressed.
Yep.
What they're gonna do with it.
Well, it would be the city or the county's responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be the city's responsibility because that's gonna be our intersection there.
Or with that gate, it can be open. And they just plow through.
Get an emergency vehicle inside and
Plow
plow
back,
out and
another
then you're done.
I mean, if the snow's gonna end up in the same place, they're gonna have to maybe do maybe a little bit of moving around where the gate posts are at. But the rest of it would be pretty much the same as the fence, I would think.
It really drifts there by Jeff Henson's. That's a bad spot, you know. And it's just something that gonna have to be decided how to address it.
City crews may have to make some adjustments and figure it out.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to back in somebody's drive to turn around when they get up there. I mean, which they can do, good enough driver.
Well, unless they just open the gate and go on around. I mean, it could be considered a kind of an emergency.
Or they're doing it before the gate was in.
Went straight across. They went down 130th and they kind of come around and went down that road.
We could probably do the same thing anyway.
Well, we got-
So what you're telling me then is you're gonna have them get out, unlock the gate, open up the gate, drive a portion through, leave a truck, get out and close the gate and lock it up?
I mean, you don't have much choice. They're gonna have to put a gate in.
Well, they're gonna have to put the gate in possibly or something, but we're either gonna have to have those guys drive through and then have somebody follow them and lock it up. I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah, I know.
we've got,
Remote control.
we get,
Thanks, Kate.
We've got dead end streets and
You're hired. I want to start.
they know how to work it.
No, the thing is,
Okay.
we're stuck with it, so we're just gonna have to figure out some way to take care of it.
well, I'm just asking some of these questions because they're gonna come up.
Yeah,
And we need to have answers.
absolutely. And if they don't, we'll make sure they do.
Couple, points, I guess. So when that gets closed, is there anything that can be done? I mean, I'm thinking like truck traffic when they come down there by the Portland, by the LCC. I mean, is there anything that can be done to the curb or, I mean, the other thing is having at heavy times of the day, I think we're almost gonna have to have police, you know, at that intersection and, you know, down towards the Byway, the school, just, you know, if it gets congested just to keep traffic flowing, keep things safe. I'm thinking if there's a lot of traffic after school and there's kids, and to kind of anticipate, you know, if there's a truck trying to make the corner, maybe the officer's gonna have to, you know, say, okay, we need to clear this area open so the truck can make the turn. I mean, I'm just, in the interim, until we get our solution done, I think that might have to be done. We'll have to work it out. That's all there is to it.
They've been kind of working that out anyway. The high school, kids have not been allowed to drive down that road anyway. It was mandated at the school that the kids couldn't take that road.
The buses, school vehicles. Kid, if you're a licensed driver, you can still use that intersection if you're 17 or 18
So
in
it's
high
just
school.
school buses?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I misunderstood.
but it really isn't too bad.
No.
I can usually get
Get
home
used to
in
it.
10 minutes.
Like Gail said, we just have to work it out.
So it's, council has no further discussion right at this time. I'm gonna open it up for Bill, please state your name and your address.
My name is Bill Goodman. I live at 804 East First Street, just up the street here a block. And this whole closure thing of the old Dubuque Road is eating at my caw ever since we had the public hearing, which was held in this room. And I believe that just like every other public hearing, it's just nothing but a square filler. We had citizen after citizen parade up that evening and voice objections to closing that intersection. And because Greg Grover and Derek Sneed wanted a resume filler, they just proceeded to ramrod this thing down the supervisor's throat and your throats. And I still do not believe that that intersection needs to be closed. Well, guess what? Foregone conclusion now. But the question is now, I have to rely on what's printed in the newspaper by Jake, reading the fine print of the city council meetings and the county supervisor meetings. And I may not know everything that is going on, but I would like to ask you folks some questions tonight. The key to closing this intersection is getting a road run up to J&P Cycles to that intersection, which is equally as dangerous. And that has been, you've allocated, what is it, $700,000 to Snyder and Associates to work that road up there where we used to do it by line of sight. So you're gonna run this road up there, and you're telling me that you're gonna close Old Dubuque Road until you have that road run up to J&P Cycles. Am I correct? And the bids haven't even been put out for grading. So how long are we talking about the closure of that Old Dubuque Road, inconveniencing the hell out of everybody? You folks are voted in to represent the citizens, not to tell the citizens what you're going to do. And it just asses me to death that this is happening. That intersection is going to be closed, and that work is not going to be done. You're going to put an overpass over that road, correct? Well, that overpass over that road is not going to be started until that road up to J&P Cycles is complete, correct? Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Then please enlighten me.
We'll all work simultaneously with one another. It's an entire project. There will be some grading done early to bring the fill in that's necessary for the overpass. So then it would be permitted to sit for a year and settle. So I don't want to say it's going to be in 2 phases, but you will see early construction, and then you will see the rest of the construction.
So then if I heard you right, it's going to be at least a year.
The projected completion of the project would be at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024.
Well, I'm here to tell you folks, I think closure of that Old Dubuque Road at this point in time is way, way premature. I've said in this meeting tonight, and on almost every subject, we're sitting here asking each other questions. Now, I don't know if that's a lack of the council members doing homework on this, the lack of Jacob doing his homework and providing it to you. I don't know, but it's just a little bit absurd.
Well, Bill, I'm going to explain something. The road's going to get closed, and it's not because of us.
DOT is going to close it. The
DOT.
Iowa DOT. is
They
going
have
to close
deemed that intersection, I believe, if I'm correct, Mike Jacob, the most dangerous intersection in the state of Iowa.
You know what,
Because of the
Alan?
accident.
Alan, they may say it is, but I think that's a bunch of BS. That intersection up at J&P Cycles is every bit as dangerous. You go up the hill, the Amber Road coming out is every bit as dangerous. And I'll tell you another one that's dangerous, as dangerous, if not more. And that's that turnoff where you cross the Wapsie and you turn off on Shaw Road. That's dangerous as hell. Springville. How many accidents, how many people have been killed at that intersection? Nothing being done there. There's been proposals and whatnot, but nothing's being done.
Bill, the intersection of Springville is 0 to 2.
It does, it does in an indirect way, Rod, because like I said, this thing has been ramrodded by people who wanted resume fillers. That's my estimation.
It's not actually.
And also, Alan, can you tell me, you live over on the other side. Why is it that you're closing this side and not the other side?
Because they've only had 3 accidents on that side, and on this side, all the other accidents happened. And I can tell you that in my case, I am to somewhat in agreement with it. I don't like the idea, but I am, and here's the reason why. I saw the statistics. I saw the number of accidents that happened compared to any place else in the state. And I wouldn't want my son to get killed on that.
It's like people said up here, and you can call me a lunatic or whatever, but there was some very competent people paraded up here to the microphone the night of the public hearing, and you heard them. The main reason why there's accidents at that intersection is because people are in a hurry, they're distracted driving.
And
Accidents happen for a purpose.
And the curve. That's one of the reasons that there's a problem there too, because you can't, when you see a car coming along the highway, it doesn't look like it's going fast going this way. The minute it comes around the curve, suddenly it's going the same speed.
Well, I'm talking the same thing at the Shaw Road.
I know.
I'm talking the same thing at the top of the hill, because on the Amber Road, because of visibility.
I can tell you that I'm in agreement all the way.
Well, I'm here to tell you, I know I have about as much control as nobody. But I'm telling you that that road does not need to be closed now. You don't even have the damn snow removal worked out. There's so many details that haven't been addressed with us. And shame on you if you approve it. And the county supervisors could give a tinker's damn about it. It's going to increase our property taxes, the closure of that intersection. That's been stated by Jacob. And it's going to reroute a bunch of traffic through my neighborhood, which I don't appreciate.
I'll add to that. It will cost, and it will be paid for by taxpayer dollars. But if you look at the concept, it's gonna bring in a lot of tax revenue. You open that road up to get the commercial park taken off. There's plans to put in future residential subdivisions that are gonna bring in tax dollars. And if we don't close this, the DOT is gonna step in and close the median.
Where are you gonna put residential subdivisions?
If you look at the concept, I have a copy if you'd like to see it.
I would like to look at a bigger one. The one in the paper, I couldn't even see it with a magnifying glass.
And there'll be manufacturing on one side and residential.
Okay, but what about the people that you represent? What about the egress out of that area? What about the safety concerns at the school? If the flag goes up?
The school supports the closure.
Well, shame on them too.
The school supported conceptual plan of the overall project, the extension of Old Dubuque Road to Farnham Drive. the overpass. The school supported it. Obviously the county supported it. The law enforcement supported it. Other emergency is the fire supported it. The city business leaders supported it. So this has garnished a great deal of support. The intersection is, per the state, is one of the top 4 unsafe intersections in the state of Iowa. They have looked at the data, the analysis that says the intersection at J&P, as you're referring to, it is safe to have the traffic flow through there. Those are the experts, the DOT safety. So, Bill, that would carry a little bit more than you just saying that those intersections are unsafe. So there's been a lot of work.
Something else that I brought up during the public hearing is that there's never been an investigation and to where they're pieced together on the people that were killed at that intersection.
They have a camera up there that sees every one of them, and I've got one of those accidents on my email I had sent it to. It was sent to me.
Has there been a compilation of what caused those accidents and and how many of it was for people who shouldn't have been driving, older people that shouldn't have been driving in the first place?
It's a cross section. You can't look at it that way. Stupid people do stupid things, that's for sure. But because of that intersection, one of the reasons the DOT wants to close it isn't just necessarily something that happens, but also because of the stupid people that cause accidents. A girl drove by there, through there one time, looking at her cell phone and didn't see the car coming. I mean, that's stupid, yes, but she died. They're closing it to keep stupid people from doing something stupid in that intersection. Is one of the reasons. The other one is simply because accidents happen. And like I said, I agree with you. I hate to see it closed. And I fought it in my mind. But seeing the statistics that the DOT put out, and I can't believe that they would be lying to us.
So what are you, the city council, even voting on it for if it's a done deal?
We're required to do so.
To fill another square.
Well, it beats me to empty. I mean, I'm not trying to be smart with you at all, but it's our responsibility. And we listened to all the information. We got the facts. I'm a fact person. You can ask these people here. I don't make decisions unless I get facts. And I get upset when I don't get them. And one of the reasons that I voted for it reluctantly is because of the facts. And I'm sorry that, and I understand why you disagree. And I do too, because now, even the way they're setting up the other side over there, where my house is at now, I get all the traffic that goes by my place, except a few people that drive out Caitlin to go to Cedar Rapids. Everybody comes up and goes up. It's just something we have to deal with, and we have no choice when it boils right down to it, because the state's going to close it whether we say we don't want it closed or not. To get the state to work with us so we can do what we're going to be doing up here, we have to go along with it. If you don't have a choice, sometimes when you're in Rome, you got to do what the Romans do. It's just one of those times. And in behalf of us all, I apologize for not being able to do what you'd like to see done, because I do agree with you. I wish we could. But the other thing that bothered me more than anything that the statistics said, my shop is about 300, 400 yards, would you say, from that intersection up there. In the summertime, the overhead doors of my shop are open. Do you know what it sounds like when a car hits another car? I mean, really hits it? Every year I hear that, and my first thought is somebody died. I don't want to hear that noise anymore. I've been here since 1997, and I have heard that thing continuously year after year. It's gut-wrenching. That was one of the reasons that I've said it here in this council room to the council members here. I've explained what I heard. I don't want to hear it anymore.
All right. I'm not here solely on his behalf tonight, but this gentleman right here wants to follow me and speak.
That's fine.
But I'm going to leave you with, I think it's a poor decision. I'm weighing in. And it's a rush decision. That road doesn't need to be closed now. It may eventually, but not on August 1st. You think about that before you vote on it.
We have no say. Thanks, Bill. Any other, please, comment?
State name and all that.
Would you please?
Conrad Shada, 405 Old Dubuque Road, Anamosa. Long story short, totally understand that the intersection isn't good. I've traveled it for 23 years with an 80-foot semi loaded with cattle. I get it. The thing that bothers me, there's a couple things. I mean, I know it's inevitably going to happen. Question A is, I know you got to go along with the DOT. I get that. But why wasn't there some consideration of at least having the other overpass almost done? I can even understand if there was dirt moved, pavement poured, and they said, well, you know, it's going to be 6 months away, but we're going to shut it down anyhow. I don't understand how we can shut down access when the new isn't put into place. Now, I don't know all the technical details, but I do know this. Even though we don't have sales out there anymore, last year, Dad and I ran $10 million worth of cattle through that place. People don't see it, but we're doing things. It's going to cause a lot of problems, and I don't know what to do. I mean, I get that there's no other way than here or coming through Fairview, and it's not going to be a lot of fun, and I hear that you got to deal with it and all this. I also heard tonight, you know, some people say, well, $10,000, that's a lot of money, and it is. Well, I've got about $400,000 invested in a Peterbilt and Chamberlain livestock trailer with another $70,000 worth of cattle on it. I don't want to go and get it tore up by tree limbs. These two trees here, they're not 14 feet. We got to do something about that if that's, you know, the access way in. Down here by Al Schneider's, there's a tree there that's awful low. I mean, I guess we're going to have to use it, but what comforts can we take out of it when we have to make this corner down here? I mean, yeah, I know it's not happening every minute of every day. I get that. But it's going to be a real pain. And I've driven for a lot of years. I'm not the best driver in the world by any means. I mean, I can make that corner. I can go do it right now. But it's not me I got to worry about. It's the other people. I think you're right. You're going to have to get a traffic cop or do something, because in order to make that swing, they're going to have to back up. And they usually give you a one finger salute when you have to push them back. But I just don't know what else to do. It does very well frustrate me that this isn't being done at a later time, but I don't know all the details about it. I just have to look at it from a business point of view. And as a business owner and as a taxpayer, you feel, and with 11 out of 12 people, and I've talked to a handful of people about this that were at that meeting that are very disgusted about it. Maybe they don't know all the details either, but you wonder who's working for the public when you have these meetings, when 11 out of 12 is a pretty good percentage of people that didn't want it. And we all feel like it's just been thrown to the side. Nobody wants anybody killed. Nobody wants any death. But I see it all the time too, and I've been close to it. Nobody likes it, but it's the chance you take. I mean, get hit by a car tonight. So what I'm saying is, yes, it is a horrible intersection, but I think we're going to have a lot of problems. I think our trucks are going to tear up the streets. 85,000 pounds isn't going to be a lot of fun on this corner all the time. You're going to have some smell with our stuff. Can't help it. You know, that was one nice thing about Dubuque Road. It kept the smell and everything out of there. I don't know what to do. I'm not trying to be an ass. I'm just looking for suggestions because I feel like I've got a voice. I've got a business, been here since, you know, like you said, 47. I just think I don't disagree that the end result, but I think the way we're getting to the end result is just too fast. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, again, Conrad, you made some very valid points. I appreciate you doing it with professionalism and respect. The DOT has said the next accident, we will do what we can do, and that's to shut the intersection down. That's going to be, in a sense, closure. Going this route and closing down the old Dubuque side, which is the highest percent of accidents, and those that are more severe, whether it be major body injury or fatality. They come on the old Dubuque side of the Highway 151. The other side would become, if an accident were to occur, is more of a glancing blow.
You know, and I understand that. I'm not disputing that one bit. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, was that conveyed to the public why you're gonna have to do this? Here's what I really think, to be honest. The general feeling I get from people that I've talked to, they feel that there's, and I don't want to mention names, 2 individuals that have an agenda to get this closed, and they've got, you know, valid points, and they, you know, pretty much have got that done. I think the majority of the people feel like that it was rammed down our throats, and maybe if this would have been brought out, like you said, hey, our hands are tied here. We don't have a choice. The next accident, bang, it's over. We're going to shut it down, and it's going to happen. You're not going to have forewarning. It's done. I think that is a big issue and now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was conveyed. I didn't see it or hear it.
So tonight is not the first time this council has heard that. It has been discussed at previous council meetings. So, you know, the public has had the opportunity to engage in the discussion of this.
But I think they feel that they have with some of the people that did show up at that public hearing. And I think they feel like, well, hell, we should have just stayed home and watched Monday Night Football because our voices weren't heard. That's just an observation. I think that's where there's a lot of soreness in the community about this, that they just feel that it's been crammed down their throats.
Well, some said it was crammed down our throats
That's
also.
what happened to us. You can.
And I'm just making a point. I'm not trying to.
No.
And, you know, it's too bad because maybe it would have been nice for the DOT to get in to some of these discussions with the citizens, but they're working in the background and they're just telling.
You know, if they would have just came to that meeting and said, hey, you know, you guys can talk all you want, but the next accident, it's over. We're shutting it down. And I don't think that was ever.
Well, things have progressed since that meeting because they sat in on some of the meetings that Rod and so forth sat in with the county, and the DOT was there. And as it progressed, that's when they came and said, hey, if we don't shut it down, they're going to shut it down and it's going to be on their schedule and they're going to do whatever they want to do. So things have progressed since that meeting in January. That's beyond our control. And now, granted, it maybe hasn't been.
And I guess the other thing that
as quickly or in a manner that you
The thing that, I mean, from my standpoint, that gets me a little bit, just, you know, and I'm not accusing anybody here. Like I said, sale barn, Dad and Grandpa have been there for a lot of years. Nobody ever contacted us, and we're one of, maybe, I don't know, there's 2 or 3 maybe major businesses along that street. And nobody came to ask, hey, at least what's your opinion? You know, what should we do? There was nobody to contact, which I think, to be honest, I'm just being clear, is really poor, because we're still there. I don't believe they talked to the folks that have the diesel mechanic shop up behind in the old Asbro building. I don't know about Bauer, Dole, Reniker, but that's about it for the businesses. But none of those businesses, I don't believe it. I know I can speak for ourselves. We're not contacted.
So if I can address that. Your dad had a discussion with me here a few weeks ago. It was clear to me
Which I understand his
what
point.
side he
Yeah.
favored. So I didn't think at that time that I needed to have follow-up discussion with him on the agenda item tonight. I did reach out to Engineered Welding. I forgot that they favor this, the closure. They would rather it not occur so soon, but they understand this has to happen for the safety side. I reached out to Bauer, Dole, Reniker, same thing.
Like I said, you may have. I'm not saying, but wasn't there a whole committee that was, or when we left that public hearing that night, wasn't there? And I could be wrong, but they were going to have a group of people get together and really figure this out as business.
That had occurred, yes.
Okay.
So the county, the city, and the DOT, it's multiple meetings since then, and worked through this type of game plan.
Were there businesses involved in that?
No.
Okay, and I didn't know that.
No.
I'm just saying from a business owner's view, just like Bill said, I don't feel it should be shut down today or with August, whatever. I get that it's going to happen. And I get that we got to, maybe get there to get to the next step. I just think it's going to be a hell of an inconvenience. And when I pull out of there at the sale barn, at 8 o'clock in the morning when there's traffic coming, I mean, there is a steady line of traffic that goes to the middle school, which is, that's fine. But what am I going to do? I mean, I'm not being smart here. What are we going to do to, like you say, making corners, breaking in the traffic? Just give me some insight. Tree limbs.
Well, the tree limbs are easy. We can get those trimmed up.
And there's, and I pointed that. I mean, you see my point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. That's an easy fix. Yeah. We can do that.
We need to get on it because it's
coming pretty close.
Yeah. But that's an easy fix. We can have city do that.
I think we need to get Jeremiah on with this as far as his thoughts on what he can do with traffic control and helping these guys out in school.
I really think you may have to park somebody like in our driveway or down the street when school's let out. I'm not saying during the day, but it gets pretty tough.
If you take like after the fair, big events, and they have just old school directing traffic, if it comes to that, it might have to do that.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, we've discussed this over and over too, but it's come to a point where our hands are tied because of it.
I totally understand that point. It's just trying to, I get it. Everybody's got to work together. I understand that, but it's just trying to get to that.
I know. I guess we're just going to have, like Galen said here when we're talking about the snow removal, we're just going to have to work through it.
But what do you suggest when you have to turn out into this oncoming lane to make that corner and you just get more or less stuck? What do you do?
Well, Conrad, I'm not trying to be smart ass here, okay? You already know that that's going to be an issue.
Well, I know, but I'm asking you what I'm supposed to do about it.
You're the biggest truck on the
I know, but you're not. What about if the people don't move? And the truckers are the number one enemy.
You start moving around that corner, I'm backing up
Well, you say that, but you just talked about stupid people do stupid things.
Well,
Some people aren't too stupid, and I really don't want to tear my equipment up. So you want me just to stop in the middle of the road and say, hey,
I've got a hook ornament on my truck. Can you come get it up?
you know, it sounds all cool until you're actually in it.
I know it, but.
I mean, I get that. It sounds
The
neat.
point I'm making is, and I'm not trying to be smart either, you're gonna have to deal with it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing I don't get is, yeah, you just got to deal with it. That's the point where I don't agree with.
What are you gonna do?
Sorry, what I'm saying to you is, you know that this is an issue. Don't use this intersection.
Well, how else am I going to get
You
there?
come off of Fairview.
Okay, got another question for you then. So you come down through Fairview when it's snowing and it's ice and it's a narrow road anyhow. When you go to make this turn down here by the old Tapkins, you got to swing over to make the turn by the curve there. I'm crossing over that traffic. So that's a better alternative? I'm just being honest.
I'll answer you. Yes, that's a better.
It is a better alternative.
To me, it certainly appears to be better.
And you've driven a lot of semi.
Now, hold on.
I'm just being honest.
And I gave you my answer. So you asked me the question, I give you the answer, and then you debate my answer.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking from experience. It's all sounding so easy, but it's not.
No one said it's going to be easy. No, it is going to be inconvenience.
So another.
Can I ask you just one question?
Yeah.
What do you do when you go to other small towns and you have to turn?
Usually you try to stay out of them, and you're not being cut off of your main access to your own business. You know, I don't get into a lot of cities hauling cattle. Most of it's all out in the country.
But surely you go through other small towns.
Yeah, but so they've got designated truck routes. Is that a designated truck route? I mean, I'm being honest. No, I mean, most of my stuff, I mean, is yeah, and sure, you maybe have to get over in another lane, but you're not going there every single day, day in and day out like I'm doing here. I mean, I get it's all going to happen and you say to deal with it, and I'm going to deal with it. But there's going to be problems, and I don't appreciate the answer. Well, you're bigger and you get back them up. You just said people do stupid things.
Yeah, they do.
I can't control what they do.
No, you can't.
You know, and I've had it where you make the corner and they pull up just a little bit farther just to be an ass, you know, a thorn in your ass. You know, I mean, I can hit them. Then it's going to be my fault. Something to think about.
There's no good answer.
I get that, but I just would appreciate the understanding that, hey, it's no different than me doing your job. I don't know anything about it. Probably a good thing I don't, but it is a concern, and I'm not the only one that uses my Uncle Terry Brickley trucks. There's other people. We're all good drivers. Hell, we wouldn't be if we wouldn't be on the road.
I agree with you. I mean, I don't want to see it closed. It's one of those things where the statistics and the facts that I've seen, and DOT saying if you don't do it, we're going to do it. It's not.
I mean, I get that. I mean, we can talk about that till midnight. It's going to happen, and that's the way it is. I just don't think it's been handled maybe the correct way.
How should it have been handled?
Get the other thing done. I mean,
But in the meantime, they're going to accident when they close the median. Then you guys have to close it completely. What they want to do is.
Yeah, but guys, I'm not saying that there isn't a problem there. I'm saying you got to get one thing implemented before you do another.
Since January, we had no plan. Now since January, you guys can both look at this. We've got a concept, we got a plan, we got everything we're going to do.
That's going to take 4 or 5 years to get done.
In January, we had nothing. We're going to close.
Yeah, but in 4 or 5 years, it's going to get done, right? So, well, you know how things usually go. At least 3.
The point is, it doesn't make any difference what we're doing right now. We're going as fast as we can. The DOT is going to close it, period.
I get that. I'm just saying, from a business owner, you got to look at it from our point of view. And it's not like the DOT is this grand martyr that you can't touch. Why didn't they come and talk to us business owners? maybe it is, but maybe as a council, they should have fought for us a little bit.
We did.
Did you, you know, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to knock you guys at all.
You know,
You weren't there when we were
we've
talking
heard,
to them.
hey, Alan, please, we've heard from you, Conrad, I'm not trying to cut you short. There may be other people in the public that have comments on this. You should have been allotted 3 minutes.
I'm sorry to take your time. It won't happen again.
Rebecca, do you have anyone else that has public comment on this?
Yes, there are two. The first one is Sheriff Grover. I will go ahead and unmute you, Greg.
Please state your name.
Hi there, this is Sheriff Greg Grover. Are you able to hear me?
You're very faint, Sheriff Robert. Could yell or scream.
Okay, is this any better?
No.
I will use the option of calling in by phone.
He's gonna call by phone.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to make a difference, Greg.
State, Sheriff Robert, just make your statements. We'll try to convey them to council that can hear.
Yeah, can you hear me any better?
No, but go ahead. Go ahead, Sheriff Grover.
Oh, we lost him.
You lost it.
Where's that?
I'm not sure. Greg, can you hear us? Well, I will unmute our second person, and if Greg comes back, then we can have him talk at that point. So Bryce, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Please state your name.
Bryce Rickless.
We can hear you, Bryce.
So I was just going to talk. I've been fortunate enough to be working with to a lot of the council meetings where this intersection has been discussed over the last few months, and knowing the depth and the DOT's stance on closing the intersection. So our company Boomerang has bought the old JMP facility. As everybody knows, Old Dubuque Road is basically the lifeline to get us in and out of that facility, as well as we have over 100 employees that work for us as well. So that road does become, our main arterial to get in and out of town. And again, it's the easiest way. However, understanding the community and understanding where the DOT stance is on that road, I understand where the city needs to, basically the city doesn't get the choice. Working through it, understanding the DOT, I've been there and heard what the council is stating, that basically the DOT will close the median on the next accident, whatever it be. So while one would love to see the intersection stay open for traffic, the idea that we're going to go 3 years without an accident at this intersection is about like buying one lottery ticket and think you're going to retire tomorrow. It's a novelty idea that has no way of coming true. So if we wait 3 months longer, have an accident and the DOT closes it, then we're out all the more because now 130th Street does not have the median to come across because the DOT will close the median with it. So I guess from what I've seen, when it comes to truck traffic in town and everything that's going on, and I will agree, there's some good points about trimming the trees and making access around the town, you know, better, and then the county, because we're bringing equipment in and out of town all the time and all sorts of stuff. But, and I got 2 8-axle semis that'll cruise around town during the day moving equipment. But the simple fact is, we know we got to do this, and I favor the closure now so that we have control as a city over what happens. If there's a business in town that's going to be affected by that intersection, for the amount of trucks I own and the amount of stuff coming down that road where we're coming in and out of town to get to that facility, I know it's going to have an impact on us. And I got to make the same corners that everybody else does, and our trucks have to do the same stuff. But for the betterment of the community and having control of that intersection, I just want to speak in favor of what the city has to deal with DOT and the issues that are there to be. There's stuff outside of our control. The city was dealt this hand. You don't always get dealt a hand of aces, so you got to play them out the best you can, and also knowing what's gone on since the public hearing this winter after the accident when this started. There has been a lot of effort from all governing offices that I have seen through it as I work with these offices on other projects through the nature of our business, and there has been a lot of heart and thought put into it. And there have been a lot of public meetings, open council meetings where stuff has been discussed, and there's been great thought put into it. And so that's about what I know. I would say for the positive side of it. I don't have much else to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. Rebecca, do you have anyone else?
Yeah, Greg has now called in. Greg, if you want to try talking now.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Council, for your time. I appreciate it. And sorry about this inconvenience. Had a prior commitment and was not able to attend, but it's important enough to take time away from my family. So I just wanted to make a couple points. I don't want to get too far off topic, but just as one thing I want to point out is I've been elected sheriff the last 3 elections. I'm up for election this year. And unless this is retirement, a resume builder has nothing to do with why I've chose to take this project on. It has everything to do with people's lives and people dying. And one of the speakers made an earlier comment about being a damn inconvenience, and that completely hits to what I'm talking about. Is I think people's lives are more important than people's convenience, including mine, because I too will have to change my pattern of behavior when it comes to driving. A couple points that I would like to make is when we had our joint meeting, and it was the Board of Supervisors and City Council, that discussion at that time was to close both the east and the west side and eliminate both sides. And so I sat and took notes during that meeting, which I thought actually was very important that we did hear public comments. And I went through my notes and I picked out basically 4 things that kept coming up. The first one was fear that the county would not stay involved. And I think we can all recognize that the county engineer's office has spent lots of time, and which is lots of money, to get this project moving and kind of come up with some of the early concepts on this. And so the county has already invested a lot into this project. The second was the public was afraid of closure with no solution. And I think when everybody came together and we released what the plan was of moving forward, I think by the council taking the step to hiring the engineer firm was a huge step. It was very important. It was very crucial. And I commend the city council for taking that action. So I think that part's been addressed. The school was in support as long as they had an emergency second exit if they had to evacuate. The DOT committed a gate system to allow emergency access to basically the existing intersection now, and they have saved that for us, and that is ready for our use. So we have checked that. The large majority of people who showed up at that meeting and who stood up and talked were concerned about losing access, not to the west side that we're talking about tonight, but losing access to the east side. And closure of the west side would not restrict access for the east side, whether you're trying to get on 151 to go north or south, or get off of 151 to turn on. And so that was one important thing that I think needs to be reiterated out of that meeting, was the public was way more in favor of wanting to keep the east side open as opposed to not shutting down the west side. With that being said, probably the toughest time I've had with this, and I'm going to call him out by name, as he already spoke, is Conrad Shada. I meet Conrad I meet him on the road all the time. I see him driving all the time. I spend a lot of time on the road, and I know that this is going to probably affect him more than anyone else. But with that said, he still has options. I know they're not the options that he wants. I know they're probably not the best options, but it's still, the inconvenience to him is not more important than someone else getting killed out there. And so I'm sorry, Conrad, you're the one that, like I said, it's been tough because I get the fact that it's going to affect you, but I see carpet delivery people stopping on the road now to back up and make deliveries. And so the public is just going to have to be used to a little bit of traffic out there and taking the extra time. I wanted to address a little bit, they talked about this closing of the intersection. DOT, and I specifically had spoke to them because what DOT had stated is that if there was no action at a local level, their solution was closure of the median. And according to them, this would eliminate all T-bone accidents, which is true. Now, the question we don't know is if approving an engineering to move forward, like the city council did a couple weeks ago, is that considered action? We don't know the answer to that. And if DOT would come in and close the median, then this would go against what a majority of the public was opposed to, and that was keeping action. And so I think it's very important that by us being city and county taking action on that, we're the ones who control the action. It's not left up to what DOT wants to do. Everybody is whatever they've decided. They've already played their cards on what their decision is. They don't care about our inconvenience. They don't care about our access. Their job is to make sure that they lower numbers on their state highway, because this is where the deaths and the serious injuries are occurring. And so one more thing I wanted to say is, if the city council, and I'm confident that you will do the right thing, but if you do not vote to close that, the Board of Supervisors has already. I've already said that I acknowledge the fact that some people will fully support me. Some people will completely oppose to me. I'm okay being the public figure on that, and I'm okay with that. But if it does not get closed as far as the west side that was recommended by the safety committee for August 3rd, then I will basically go after DOT and try to get closure of the median, because that is the only way that we can ensure that more deaths are not going to happen out there. And the data, which somebody talked about earlier, who kept saying, I believe, I have the data, you have the data, the Board of Supervisors has the data. We know that the other intersections are not as dangerous as what was mentioned before. We know this was in the 4 most dangerous intersections. 2 of the intersections on that list have already been addressed via overpasses. And so we are getting down there in that top 2 or 3. And so we know that we have to do something. And the last point I want to make is I know that as elected officials, we have to make difficult decisions. We have to make decisions that are in the best interest of all people, just not a select few. I think that option is clear of what you have to do, and that's vote to close the west side of the Old Dubuque Road intersection. And I appreciate your time on this.
Thank you for your comment, Sheriff. Rebecca, do you have any additional public comments from anyone?
There has not been any other public comments on my end.
Thank you. Well, council, as you heard from Sheriff Grover and are aware, you do have a difficult decision to make tonight. You will not please everyone, obviously. Nonetheless, if there's no further discussion with the council, I'm going to take this to a vote.
You need a motion?
You know I do. Thank you, Galen.
I move.
You move to close?
Yes. I'll second that.
Motion by Galen, second by Jeff, to close the intersection of Old Dubuque Road and Highway 151. Before I go to vote, I'm going to ask the council again, because this is going to be a sensitive matter. Do you want further discussion?
The only thing I want to state is if this gets approved, that we immediately start looking at getting these trees trimmed and getting some of the things in place that Conrad had mentioned.
Also maybe talk to Jeremiah and get his input. We need to have a plan.
But we need to get these things done before August 3rd.
Yeah.
All those in favor of closing Old Dubuque Road Highway 151 intersection, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to close the intersection carried unanimously. 8.10, discussion of possible action on the interim fulfillment of administrative duties and responsibilities. Beth, were you able to send out that information to the council?
That's on a different page.
Jacob his resignation will be effective Friday of this week.
Well, in reading this, what I read and so forth is, it looks like if we go with this Cindy, if we go that route, she's going to be here maybe 2 to 3 days. I'm going to say that then Beth is going to have to be picking up more duties. I guess that would be something that we need to decide how much more, what she's going to be doing, what if we go with Cindy. Because I'm going to tell you, after seeing her proposal, I'm not really excited about it.
No, I'm not even.
Which then would fall back to, could we look at hiring her as a consultant to help us on a need basis?
In a previous, this happened before, wasn't Pat County utilized as a consultant for this type of thing?
He was used to some extent, yes.
kind of legal, if you'd be open to it.
Yeah, I don't, Pat at one time when we did this before said he'd be available as a consultant, but not step into any functioning roles. I mean, I know he worked with the city on negotiations with the reformatory for their wastewater contract, and but he was involved in that, but I'm just looking at, is there a way that we can maybe utilize either Pat or Cindy in a different role than having her come 2 to 3 times, maybe.
She's 2 or 3 hours away.
Yeah, and she's hour and 45 minutes plus mileage and expenses. I was figuring when he said that she was in Ely, that she was either Ely or Cedar Rapids,
Yeah, I was
a lot closer than Marshalltown.
So could we correspond with this lady and ask her if she would be interested in working on a consultation basis for her and or Pat Callahan, same thing, and see what comes about?
Certainly reach out to her if that's what council would like.
Reach out to her and Pat
And Pat,
to see if he would be available, because if we're paying expenses, Pat would be a lot cheaper.
and has previous knowledge.
Right. And then the question is, I guess, like if we're gonna do something like that, then who are we going to put into that place? Are we going to do like we did last time and elevate the city clerk to handle a lot of the day-to-day operations? And then how much will the compensation be, and is she open to doing it?
Well, we're gonna need a lot of input from Beth, if that's the case too. She's the one that's gonna be jumping into the fire.
Right. Well, and that may in turn lead us to hire a temporary secretary or something to assist with some of the minor jobs that need to be completed.
I think we need to talk to this guy right now. You're up now.
I mean, I know Cindy and Pat, so either one of them would be fine. I guess I'd just like to have a conversation about like who's gonna do what, and you know, how it's gonna look, I guess. I guess I don't know. I mean,
That's
Jacob and I can
inner
kind of.
workings better than we do when it comes right down to it. I think you should have a little input, and that's my opinion. I think you should be telling us instead of asking.
Sure. Yeah, as far as like projects that are going on, I probably don't know things in depth, you know, as far as what's happening or, you know, what Jacob attends or. You can give me the information on that.
And by all means, don't be afraid to rely on everybody.
Need to help with the transition.
Yeah, I mean, you got some people that have more time than others, but I'm just gonna say, you know, I'm always a phone call away too.
I'm open to whatever you decide.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what
We will make it work, whatever you decide.
Good. Well, and if you feel we need to hire like a temp or something, let us know.
Okay.
We'll try to figure something out. Because I know you've got a lot on your plate already with the new accounting system and trying to get some other stuff in place, so we don't want to overlook.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, well, I would.
So for 8.10, we'll find out if Cindy and Pat can work on a consultant case-by-case basis. Otherwise, we will, for the most part, be tabling this till for future discussion.
Next meeting.
For clarification, are you saying using and or Pat and Cindy?
I
Or
was gonna
just
reach out to both.
and decide to do one, and then between Beth and one of those two, that would be our.
I mean, both could favor it and both could not be interested in it.
Yeah, don't know
And
until
if
you
both
find out.
favors,
Yeah.
we might have to make a decision.
Okay. 8.11, motion to approve the renewal of beer and liquor licenses. Item A, renewal of Class E liquor license, Class B beer permit, Class B native wine permit with Sunday sales privileges, Casey's Store, number 2690.
So moved. Second.
Motion
My feet are cold.
by John to approve. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. 8.12, review and approval of current bills. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second. Motion by Galen, second by Allen, to approve the bills as they were submitted. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to pay bills carries unanimous. 9.0, city administrator's report.
Going to be using the rest of this week to try to wrap up as many things as I can, make sure that.
Jacob, could you repeat that? It was quiet.
Sorry, I will be using the rest of this week to wrap up as many projects and items as I can, as well as compiling the information on ongoing projects that I will share with Beth, so that try to make the transition as smooth as I can.
Any questions for Jacob? 10.0, mayor and council reports. 10.1, mayor's report. So I wanted to thank Jacob for his 2.5 years of service to Anamosa. What he has done to advance and move us forward in a positive direction is very appreciated. His resignation will be effective at the end of the day on Friday. And I wish you well in all future endeavors. Thank you very much. 10.2, council reports. I talked to the city folks, they were going and having a blanket.
Alan, could you repeat that?
Question if I end up getting my. Thanks so much. Speak up.
I talked to them over there, they're still closed, but they are working on the floor that we were discussing with them this summer. She said that the linoleum or whatever they've got, the tile needs to be redone, so she's actually starting to do that herself. Stripping she's done the kitchen floor. She said it's perfect time to do it, so they're working on that. Other than that, they're delivering food and doing what they can. Thank you.
Anyone else in reports? Parks and Rec, they're just, with the pool not opening this year, they're trying to get all the maintenance items done, so the pool's ready to roll next year. The pump room is planned to be done in August. They're also trying to get the new gutters and the slide that's gonna be repainted and sealed. They're looking into possibly getting some pet waste disposal stations around town. That's very exciting.
Oh, that's good.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Joe. If nothing else. 11.0, public with business with the council on items not on the agenda. Rebecca, do you see any hand raising out there?
No, I do not.
All right. 12.0, adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Rich. Second by John. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.